Majority Report with Sam Seder. It's time to look in the mirror, America. Do you like what you see?
I keep referring to Obama as the magic Negro.
Do you like what you see now?
Well, suck on this.
It's just a mirror, America.
Shared sacrifice by everybody.
What could it do to you except reflect your image?
I did nothing wrong at the Minneapolis airport.
The Majority Report.
Far more credible to me than PBS and Frontline.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Thursday, June 7th, 2018. My name is Michael Brooks on a Michael Thursday, and this is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We're broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On today's program, journalist, author Corey Pein on his new book, Live, Work, 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 Die, a journey into the savage heart of Silicon Valley. Also on today's program, Trump plans a confrontational approach with world leaders at an economic summit, even as he invokes the War of 1820 in a testy exchange with Justin Trudeau over trade tariffs. U.S. border agents have made more than 50,000 arrests in May for the third month in a row, says the Department of Homeland Security, as the ramped-up war on refugees, migrants, and non-white Americans accelerates. The ACLU is suing over family separations, and a federal judge struck a blow against the Trump administration on Wednesday, holding the policy as the case moves forward. And talks fail to resolve the GOP immigration showdown in the House as the far right holds strong for a all-white America. Mick Mulvaney fires 25 members of a consumer watchdog's advisory board as he continues his aggressive efforts to undermine the modest reforms for consumers of the Obama era. And Democrats vow to bring back stupid and harmful spending rules if they win back the House, because there's no doubt that in an age of accelerated inequality, mass disruption, authoritarian leadership, what most normal people are really hungering for is arcane budgetary rules that block the delivery of resources to them. Good stuff, Democrats. And Trump seeks to reorganize the federal government, combining safety net programs under health and human services while also recommending big changes in other agencies, all amounting to slashes, cuts, and burns across the board. All that and much, much more on today's Majority Report. 4 of us are here today. The 4-day-a-work-week man is not here, which is, of course, why I'm in the main chair. And we're all trying to make sure, particularly Matt and Jamie, to not give Brendan a cold, because Brendan has remained unscathed and he has some big plans that we cannot disrupt. Sean Hannity is one of the most anxious people on the planet. Now, I am not like a big Sean Hannity watcher. He's, of course, nothing compared to the greatest broadcaster of our generation, Alex Jones. He doesn't bring much to the table entertainment-wise. So I don't know if he's always been this sort of tense as a broadcaster, I don't know. I know that he's never seemed... I've never really gotten his appeal. I mean, the joke with Sean Hannity is it's sort of like a I think it was like a middle school gym teacher in Long Island, won an award for a Fox show. Has been the line on him for a long time. But as we go deeper into the Trump era, and as the pressure mounts around people like Michael Cohen, and Sean Hannity's relationships to these people get slowly revealed to be deeper and deeper and deeper, to the point where some people, including potentially some criminal prosecutor type people, might be starting to ask themselves, why doesn't anybody call Sean Hannity? Maybe we should. Sean seems to be getting super anxious, and so I wanted to share this clip from last night with Sean Hannity talking about how those who are being subpoenaed by Mueller, maybe what they should be thinking about. Of course, this involves Hillary Clinton, but there's some other stuff going on here as well.
So this is interesting. They are demanding that witnesses turn in their phones so Team Mueller, and of course his pit bull, Andrew Weissman, and Jeannie Ray, who worked for Clinton, get to review all of their electronic communications. He wants the phones turned over, even texts that are on what are called encrypted apps like WhatsApp or Signal or one of these things. Now, maybe Mueller's witnesses, I don't know. If I advised them to follow Hillary Clinton's lead, delete all your emails, and then acid wash the emails and the hard drives on the phones, then take your phones and bash them with a hammer into little itsy-bitsy pieces, use bleach bit, remove the SIM cards, and then take the pieces and hand it over to Robert Mueller and say, Hillary Rodham Clinton, this is equal justice under the law.
On the next Sean Hannity segment, how to fake your own death but keep your real estate holdings and hide your extensive business dealings with Michael Cohen. That's what Hillary Clinton did or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, just to keep us up to speed, we don't know exactly yet what his connection is to Michael Cohen. And
we
all
know
the
that Michael
shady
Cohen
stuff,
did some legal work for him. We have no idea what the specifics of it are.
But from the way he's acting, he definitely did something.
How to drive out of Times Square without getting caught. Because, you know, Hillary's a bitch or whatever on Sean Hannity. Warning, contents under pressure. Sean Hannity show now.
Remember in January, I think it was, there was Julian Assange or like a fake Hannity DM'd with Julian Assange, and Assange told him to get a WhatsApp or encrypted messaging services.
Well, I thought I thought it was a fake Assange and a real Hannity.
Oh, no, I think I'll look that up.
Oh, I thought Hannity thought he was dealing. I did like the way like Hannity was just like.
It was a fake Hannity.
Oh, it was a fake
it was
Hannity.
Sean Hannity with 2 underscores.
Like, yeah, it's like Signal or what's I don't know. Certainly nothing I would know about. Certainly not apps I'm using. Robert Mueller's a pit bull. He's even using encrypted phone services to uncover crimes, which is super intense.
Has he not heard of the Streisand effect?
So now liberals will talk about the Streisand effect.
Like, seriously, the more you talk about something, the more people think about you in relation to it.
Probably not his audience, but yeah, that is true. I cannot wait to see. This is the fun part of what all these people do for us, is we get to see slowly what. I mean, it's going to just be some sort of low-level scumbaggery. What is this? Oh, Olivia Nunzi, whatever. Sam Nunberg tells me he's handed over his old BlackBerry phones to Robert Mueller. Of course, Sam Nunberg has a BlackBerry. Wait, what's the...
I'm looking for the funny bit here.
Okay.
He was really pissed off that they got his BlackBerries. I didn't know this was such a long thread.
Nunberg was pissed off that, like, you can't take my BlackBerries. I mean, it's ridiculous. I already talked to you on the phone and in person, and now you're taking my BlackBerry? Okay. All right, guys. We obviously Majority Report made possible by you. Become a member today. Majority.fm/become a member, I believe. We'll be right back with Corey Pein. Silicon Valley is not your friend, Musk cultists.
got the pressures of your life and it tough. No stay down, mama, time pick it up. No bother with the down, full style, strictly up, full vibes. I pick it up when the bills, them, the rent and the mortgage due. Yeah. When me chalice, when your best friends are gone and it's only you. Yeah. Like up a split, turn up the music. Skanking sweet. Everybody wanna feel like free. Forget your troubles and rock with me. You know feel a reggae music sweet. Yeah. Skanking sweet. Everybody wanna feel like free. Forget your troubles and rock.
Welcome back to the Majority Report. I'm Michael Brooks. Joining us now is Corey Pein. He is the author of Live, Work, 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 Die, A Journey into the Savage Heart of Silicon Valley. Corey, thanks for being here.
Always happy to be on the Majority Report.
Always great to have you on whatever show I'm hosting, Corey. This is a great book. It's very timely. I feel like you picked a moment when pretty much, unless you're sort of just totally deluded, you're skeptical about Silicon Valley. But how did this process start? You actually moved there and tried to create a tech entrepreneur lifestyle for yourself. How did that, what was the inspiration behind that? And how did that work out?
I talk about in the introduction, I was something of a true believer before I started this book. I mean, I was a newspaper journalist for years and just getting laid off, enduring pay cuts, all of that shit. And, I thought that the tech industry looked pretty good by comparison. I'm talking back, post 2008, 2010. Right. I think it was 2010. I decided to leave my newspaper job and launch a startup of my own. It was called War is Business. And the idea was that it was a defense contracting watchdog site. And the buzzword at that time was crowdsourcing. So it was going to be crowdsourced. And of course, I wound up being the only person that really contributed anything to it. But I learned some stuff before I burned out, like many solo entrepreneurs do, about how Google exerts its monopoly influence in the market, and about the sort of cult-like motivational propaganda that exists to egg on people who want to start tech companies, and make it big in tech. And I really actually did buy into a lot of that stuff. I was reading Hacker News every day, teaching myself how to code and doing basically doing what the standard advice was back in that period. So anyway, I burned out after about a year of that. And sometime later took a job at a proper startup that somebody else had founded in London that had, investors in beanbag chairs and,
so that's serious stuff. The beanbags got broke out. Okay. So there's some real ideation going on here.
And an espresso.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was a real startup. Anyway, it got acquired, as many startups are. They called it a successful exit, for the founders. And I stuck around for the aftermath and realized that when a company gets sold, it's always bad for the company, and it's always portrayed as a good thing for everyone involved. But it was the opposite. I mean, it was a news startup, and the new owners, it was Bill Gates, actually, one of his companies, immediately wanted to do like a 50% staff cut. And I ended up resigning because I thought that would put some of our people in danger, because we had people in like Syria, all kinds of places where they were at risk, and we needed to be fully staffed so that there were no periods when, if somebody got in trouble on a story, there would be nobody around to help or make a call for them or whatever needed to happen. Anyway, so I went through a couple of really disillusioning experiences about the tech industry, and was then kind of unemployed for a while. Not sure if I'd what I would be doing next, if I'd be going back to journalism, or if that would even be possible after quitting an editor-in-chief job after 6 months. So I wound up, kind of hanging out in my pajamas and getting bitter for a while, and then started writing about sort of taking it out on the tech industry. Started freelancing again, writing some articles that were kind of cathartic about how, this idea of entrepreneurial journalism was BS,
right,
and how there was a real sort of creepy, sort of fascist undercurrent in the tech scene, and that led to the book deal. So the original concept for the book, the original title was "How to Make $30 Billion the Silicon Valley Way."
Yeah.
And which
let's do it as a follow-up book. Still a good title.
Well, no, the title kind of served its purpose, because I decided that if I were really going to write about the tech industry, I needed to go to the heart of it. I couldn't just, report from my couch, as comfortable as that might be. So I went and I told everybody I met in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley that I was working on a book about how to get rich in tech, but also that I was trying to secure funding for a startup of my own. And that's sort of the narrative premise of the book.
And so you found a couple of different things here. One was that the sort of, even the idea, and if we take as a given that, of course, from the beginning, that we talked about this on my show, but we could expand on it here and still use the same kind of framework. In a way, you're doing a history, in my view, of Silicon Valley is this sort of like hyper-condensed history of capital, basically, because you sort of have a public good that's generated as a commons. It's government-funded research. It's created through academic communities, amateur communities, also private sector activity, but stuff that's totally interdependent and inseparable from government investment, community networks. Then it's privatized. That's like the primitive accumulation, where you turn a commons into a private asset and then people just eat off of it. And, even these ideas, like, it's very funny. I mean, we'll get to Elon Musk in a bit, but one of the most sort of hysterical responses you get from his cultists that really prove that he's just a certified genius is that in the 1990s, the idea occurred to him, as it probably would occur to like literally any like 14-year-old, that at some point people are going to buy stuff over this new thing called the internet. In fact, that's probably mostly what they'll use the internet for. And therefore, you should create a platform to process people's credit card information, or even skip credit cards altogether if possible, right? For like online banking activities. Now, to get the money, the investment, the wherewithal to actually do that, of course, that takes something. But like the basic concept is totally obvious. But there was a time when, if you had the right connections, theoretically, you could go to Silicon Valley maybe and have that kind of story. Okay, I'm the guy who's doing pet food online or whatever. By the time you get to the Valley, even those sort of like pockets of openness are gone. So what's actually happening in the startup community? But still, there's a rush of young people going there with fantasies of being the next Jobs, Bezos or Musk. So what's the reality that they're actually finding when they get there?
Overcrowded, slum-like Airbnbs and jobs that allow very little personal autonomy and seem to make everyone miserable. I mean, the burnout that I experienced as sort of a one-man band running a website is not limited to that. I mean, it also applies to the kind of software engineer, marketing jobs, whatever that right. People are flocking to Silicon Valley to take. And most of my reporting was done in 2015, the on the ground stuff, although there's more up to date information in the book than that. And that still, looking back, looks more like the salad days than now. when a lot of the easy money has dried up. So it's to quote Star Wars meme, it's a trap. Don't go. In fact, people are leaving in droves. They're coming to cities like Portland, where I live now, and telecommuting if their employers will allow it, which many increasingly do, because the housing costs have gotten so out of control. It's really the tech bubble has ruined San Francisco, and some of the book is about that sort of a lament for the city. And people have really picked up on that aspect of it as well.
Definitely, we'll get to that more. Where was the easy money going, and if those were the salad days, what's going on now? From particularly because the reality is that most of these jobs, and of course, relatively speaking, these are relatively privileged jobs to other part of the economy by and large. But yes, people are overworked. I don't know, what are they, like content ninjas or coding wizards or all this other nonsense. They work in marketing and coding for big conglomerates where they have to work all the time. But there's still an idea that you can go there and strike it rich and get, some type of breakthrough. So what's actually like going from the entrepreneurial end, from that perspective, like where is the money going? How does one get that money? And what does it look like even, relative to today versus 2015?
Well, step one, get admitted to Stanford as an undergrad.
Right.
That's really the main thing. I assumed that my connections, I went to a state school and an Ivy League for graduate school, and I assumed that my connections would be enough to sort of open doors there, and typically they weren't. The culture around Stanford, which is really sort of the heart and the brain of Silicon Valley, is really one that pushes its young engineering and business graduates out as soon as possible, sometimes with the encouragement of administrators and faculty to drop. This whole thing about dropping out and making it big, that's actually encouraged in some of these departments,
right.
Because they all know that it's the money that matters at the end of the day, not the education
right.
that they're supposedly getting. So the network is number one. They're going as far as the ideas, the kinds of companies that get funded. It changes over time. Right now, AI is the big thing.
Right.
When I was there, it was the Internet of Things. There have been a couple of previous iterations. I mentioned crowdsourcing, which sounds like ancient history, right? But there's something new every 6 months, and the trick is just to take whatever you've got and figure out how to slap the right buzzword on it to ride the wave at the moment. So right now, as far as my information has it, the thing is still AI. So you see a lot of companies, and I heard this from a former AI engineer at Google, actually.
Yeah.
A lot of the AI startups that are getting funded now are basically run on Amazon Mechanical Turk, which is a service where you can hire people to do very simple tasks like filling out CAPTCHAs
right.
online for pennies, or even in some cases, I think fractions of pennies. So the AI revolution is probably some like wage slave in a Bangladeshi click factory.
Right.
That
of course.
So that's an example of the kind of stuff that goes on. So I was pitching startups that seemed a little bit.
Yeah, let's get to that. What startups were you
okay.
pitching, and what was the ultimate sort of culmination of that? This is the other thread of the book.
There's only one in the book that I write about, but in fact, I pitched a number of different startups. I'll tell you about one that didn't make the cut. It was called Mole Mountain, which is a terrible name, but I wanted a mascot because there's like Hipmunk and all these companies with mascots at the time. So,
yeah, mascots
are
big. You're right.
So I described it as a secure platform to exchange information between people who know something about a company and people who want to know something about a company and are willing to pay for it. The shorter version of that is that it was a platform for corporate espionage.
Right.
And
right. I like this. This is good. Yes.
And as was the case with many of my ideas, as soon as I would go pitch this, I would pull up the tech press a week later and find that a company had already gotten funding or just secured funding to do what I was pitching in a somewhat tongue-in-cheek or satirical intent. So that was one. I pitched this corporate espionage one, and then this there was actually a lot of audience interest at this pitch competition I went to. Like this Russian woman came up and winked at me and gave me her card.
Nice.
And like her boyfriend was standing there, or I don't know who the guy was. There was just a lot of curious stuff.
His name was Yuri.
You cannot go broke pitching corporate espionage startups in Silicon Valley. I think that one is still the game is still on for that.
Yeah, definitely.
The other one I
pitched,
pitched,
space to be in,
for sure. The other one I pitched that is in the book was called Laborize Strikes as a Service. And the idea was you would hire us to organize a union at your competitor's company.
So Uber kneecaps Lyft before they can even get their car fleet on the ground by organizing Lyft drivers into a union.
That was the idea. And I was actually inspired by Uber and Lyft going at each other in all these underhanded ways. And I thought the common thread with all these apps that are getting funding, the gig economy apps, is they're all like complicated ways to basically reduce the cost of labor.
Right.
So I thought, what about an app that increases the cost of labor? And right, because that solves a real problem that people have, because people don't have enough money.
Yeah, why would you want to solve an actual problem, Corey? That seems really. Wait, was the theory though that you would that it's on such a fast cycle that nobody would follow the logic of what you were doing? Like, it would be like, oh well, sure, like not like in 2 years. Oh my God, all car ride services could be unionized, but more like, oh, that could work great in like a week-to-week cycle. And since everything is so short-term that they wouldn't even like do any horizon planning with it, was that kind of what you were thinking?
It was a bet on the short-term greed of the investor class, which is, you can't overestimate it.
That's a solid bet.
And I don't want to give away what happened with the startup. You kind of have to read the book.
Yeah, you have to read the book.
But I will say that I did not leave in the part of the pitch about how eventually companies would keep hiring us to organize their competitors until there was only one company that wasn't unionized, and then you could boycott it.
Did you have? But that actually raises another really funny point, that when you talk about, and obviously, I mean, there might be legal problems potentially with either of these two startup concepts you talked about, but you make the other point that with a lot of the main, major companies, I mean, Uber being like a prime example, it's basically just, if I understood you correctly, it's like, what? Oh, is that you typing, Corey?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No problem. That if there's a legal barrier to what you're doing, then you basically just build in like a scenario where, first of all, you can absorb the fines, and like changing the law is just part of your long-term business plan. So just launch it while it's illegal out of the gate.
Yeah, that's the common thread too with a lot of the unicorn startups, right? Like you break as many laws as you can to get as much money as fast as you can, and then have politicians or a compliant court system legalize your past misconduct. I mean, we've seen that with Uber, for instance, Airbnb. There's some pushback now, like a little late for some people, but that is a tried and true way to make money online, is to break the law.
Yeah.
I mean, there are even copies of my own book that friends ordered on Amazon that they were not supposed. These are like gray market copies, right? Like international editions that aren't supposed to be sold in the U.S. and other sort of dodgy things, which I find a little amusing in the irony of it, but also infuriating because I'm probably not getting a royalty on that. So.
Yeah, is infuriating. What you also go into like the sort of the lower end of this stuff in the sense that like, okay, there's the dream, go to Silicon Valley, create, a multi-million-dollar valuation company, and then in fact just sell it to one of the big 4 or 5, which is the other kind of funny thing about the business model. I mean, Peter Thiel literally advocates for that in his book that he put out a couple of years ago, which is really ironic.
He's pro monopoly.
Pro monopoly for a I mean, I guess it's more coherent than most libertarians usually are, but those guys like to sort of generally pretend that that's what that pure fantasy market competition would lead to being opposed to monopolies. He's literally saying is the goal of your startup should be to find your acquisition angle for Facebook or Amazon, and then you can kind of get, sort of get fed in the chain, as it were. So there's the high end of it. The low end of it.
He's not.
Yeah,
I don't want.
No, please.
Just a little tangent on, or asterisk on Thiel.
Oh yeah, really,
book,
Corey? You really want to talk about me? Really? Sure. Go ahead, Corey.
He also says, I don't think he's really a libertarian. He also says that startups are best run like dictatorships, and like many on the right would like the government to run more like a business. So
they're the conclusion. Yeah, yeah. Well, let me put it to you this way: you're not only will you be bankrupt and homeless, but also your friends. So, way to follow the logic, Corey. Intrepid reporting. See you in court. Corey is like a tech journalist is like, yeah, that's really not funny.
Don't even joke about that. Jesus Christ.
I joke about this often. I think it's possible that if Peter Thiel were to do something like this, maybe the guy who always does the impression might be atop the list.
Yeah, nice one.
So that being said, you also went into the lower end of the the sort of the market, the sort of multi-level marketing schemes, the real profound desperation area of the web, of people who were basically getting scammed in low-level internet marketing schemes. What's that about as well?
Okay, this is the thing. This is the aspect of the book that has these more privileged class of techies more mad than anything else that I wrote, in my experience so far, in terms of hearing reactions. Because if you've been online, you know how much scam content is on there. I mean, it's like a majority of probably the display ads online, the stuff on YouTube, the ad filler on YouTube, very often for some multi-level marketing scam. You go down in the comments, it's bots posting links to scams. Of course, everybody's familiar with spam email. I mean, the reason that they're mad about it is they want to think that they're different than these 2-bit con artists that are trying to like convince grandma to sign up for monthly prescription drug program, black market from Canada or Cuba or wherever they're coming from, or that they're different than the people who have guaranteed money-making systems, like some
the old GMS, guaranteed money-making systems. Yep.
Or that are pitching like unregulated dietary supplements, but they're not any different in spirit or in content. In fact, one of the most prestigious people in the tech industry, Ray Kurzweil, who's a futurist as well as director of engineering at Google, has a side business selling anti-aging supplements. and many of them have been criticized by people in the skeptic or anti-quack community as probably doing more harm than good. So it's not like there's no harm to these scams. But another aspect of it is these scams comprise so much of the internet, and especially the ad business. Remember, at the end of the day, Google is an advertising business. Same with Facebook. That I do make the assertion that based on studies and people that have looked at it, but I make the point in the book that the revenues of these big tech companies are probably significantly inflated by the lower level fraud that happens online, organized or not, and they're very sensitive about that for a good reason, because many of the big companies are now getting more scrutiny. Post Cambridge Analytica and post Theranos, people are starting to look at the fundamentals of the internet giants, and I think the more that happens, the more closely or clearly we'll see the connection between the biggest companies like Facebook and the dodgiest, most amateurish, con advertisement at the bottom of a news article on patriottruth.com.
Right. That's the funnel right there. You talked about how, and it actually makes a lot of sense why the sort of upper end people, the wine track people, would be super offended that you drew the connections between them and the beer track people, right? Like, we're going to use that kind of basic marketing differentiation here to describe that. And I think it's partially because, Silicon Valley has had an incredible ride in terms of public perception. There was there was a stretch of years there where there was like not only no critical commentary about Silicon Valley, but really, the same way some kind of weird fanboy from Elon Musk online, who I do want to get to in a second, could have this sort of almost religious hope. That was just like the press, and a sort of...
and Silicon Valley was effectively embedded in the Obama White House.
Right.
He came out with all this Code for America stuff. That was coming from former Google employees that were handpicked to work in his administration. And one of the most frequent visitors to the Obama White House was Eric Schmidt.
Right. So do you think, that now what's happening, and certainly we can, yes, there's no doubt that Obama was just, there's going to be, to use a tech term, there's going to be a long tail to the failings of the Obama administration with regards to Silicon Valley. That being said, now we're in it's an interesting place, and I think that this parallels a lot of other parts of our politics where it's like Silicon Valley is going to get away with it and be held and not held accountable and distort our markets and corrupt the political process and, destroy privacy and be complicit in a scam economy because they can, because they have the money and the resources and the power, and that's what runs politics, right? Less so because as many people buy the mythology now. So at least the sort of cultural end of the equation is starting to loosen a little bit. And I think even like the reception to your book is sort of in line with that, right? I think if you put this book out even in 2013 or 14, there would be a lot more just kind of basic, like, you're a Luddite, just sort of base hysterical reactions, not an actual, analysis of this, what the reality of this economy is. I agree with that. Yeah. So as we move into that phase, first of all, how big a breakthrough is that? And secondly, is that the harbinger? Does that mean that the next phase is the, movement? We talked on TMBS on Tuesday about the scooter protests that just happened in San Francisco, where they're like blocking the Google buses. This is like hilarious, but also very effective disruption of the city, which zeroes home the destruction of the Bay Area by this industry. what do you think the kind of through line of that shift from the waking up of the cultural sort of hypnosis to the actual politics of it?
Well, I think it's happening much as you described, because people are seeing consequences in their day-to-day lives. I mean, I think odds are good that if you live in an urban area, you've interacted with the gig economy, and you probably have some sense after a few years of exposure to this that it's not a healthy thing for workers, right? Or even for customers. The political aspect, I would not have guessed a couple of years ago that we would see the New York Times editorial board, for instance, saying maybe it's time to break up Facebook. That is a more radical position when it comes to the posture toward this industry than I would have assumed a mainstream publication would take. Notably, you didn't see that in the Washington Post.
I wonder why that is.
Yeah.
It's just amazing when people are like, you gotta admit that Jeff Bezos is funding a lot of really good reporting. It's like, first of all, I don't have to admit anything. And secondly, like, if ever there was a walk and chew gum at the same time moment, would be like, yes, very glad that there's some tough reporting on, the emoluments clause in the Washington Post. And Jeff Bezos is literally going to turn us into some type of like hybrid Amazon China hellscape of like ultimate authoritarian capitalism if we don't do something about it.
I wanted to tell an anecdote that I think answers your question. And it's something I heard on book tour. So after I saw you in New York, I went on to DC to do a reading and then came back to the West Coast. But in DC, I was talking to people that worked on the Hill, one of whom pointed out that the Cambridge Analytica scandal really made congressional Democrats very, very mad, because there was this attitude, like with the Obama years, like everybody knew Obama loved Silicon Valley, and that's part of the reason they wouldn't criticize it. But also there were, the Valley companies were donating so much money to the Democrats because to get their priorities through. But with the Cambridge Analytica scandal and the outcome of the 2016 elections, a lot of Democrats are now going, wait a minute. We don't care that much if, you're degrading labor standards and avoiding all kinds of regulations and destroying the fabric of urban America. But listen, you mess with the election and you're messing with where we eat. So now they're not friends anymore, and they might not even be frenemies anymore. Because there's a lot of Democrats in D.C. who want to get to the bottom of what happened in 2016, and they see, Facebook in particular as playing a major negative role in that election. What questions of Russian influence aside, I mean, you'd have to concede that the sort of political communications that people receive on that platform are not the most sophisticated.
I would concede that, but isn't some of the really dangerous things though about the responses that companies like Facebook are engaging in now, as an example, is that if you don't have any type of editorial process, then it's like, of course, it's like, oh, okay, well, some insane Alex Jones bit where he, Mars has a cocaine production facility for the Clintons or something, is the same thing as, I don't know, you and I doing a segment about the DEA picking sides in the Mexican cartel wars, as an example, which is real. It's a true story. There's nothing conspiratorial about it. And it reveals a lot about U.S. foreign policy. So a lot of the moves that that Facebook particularly has undertaken is basically just re-amplifying, such as they are, the incumbents online, right? And that is going to, yes, it might undermine some bad conspiracy content, but it's also going to undermine, good investigative journalism, which obviously I don't have a problem with. But even that sort of fake news meme and that obsession, I think, their way they're going to address it's going to be a disaster.
You can say that, but it's also true that Martian Coke is the purest, best Coke.
Right. That's
look,
hey, look, that's a great point. At least you're honest about it.
I think there's another level of the responsibility that these companies have that they've abrogated, and we're dealing with the deleterious effects every day now. Back in the day when I worked at newspapers, I can't imagine any newspaper that I worked for ever running letter to the editor or accepting an ad from, say, a Holocaust denier, right? At best, the most generous way to put it, at the at best libertarian ideology in Silicon Valley that has a very unsophisticated understanding of free speech and corporate responsibility says we'll take their money. We'll take the Nazis' money. It's just free speech. It's all the same. What's the big deal? And they've created. I mean, what's Alex Jones without YouTube? I mean, there's a reason he was panicking when he was going to get demonetized from there. Right. What would Roger Stone's access to, even the Fox News empire be if he didn't have this network of, conspiracy freaks online reaching audiences through the major platforms?
Right.
And they won't hire. They won't fix this problem because it's contrary to their profit model, which involves not hiring human beings.
Well, and I think also you just it's funny, like even something like the issue, and I've talked about this before, like with Twitter and harassment and neo-Nazi voices and stuff like that. There's been a lot of focus on the sort of cultural aspect of it, the cultural problems, which is a legitimate thing to talk about, obviously, in terms of who runs these companies and diversity and voices inside these companies. It's definitely an important issue, but the structural issue is that those are literally the reasons that like a company like Twitter has survived, are precisely those accounts. So of course it's going to take a very long time until there's potentially a brand problem that is so toxic that it threatens their ability to be acquired, as an example. Then maybe we start kicking some of these accounts off. But the fundamental
I don't know that
maybe.
I'm sorry.
Well, they did a few. They did that sort of semi-purge several months ago, but not any of the soft ones, as it were, because that's business. It's money. These people bring in the algorithms that they need.
Well, and Trump. I mean, Twitter doesn't care.
Well, yeah, Trump is the biggest soft alt-right Trump Twitter account. Of course. And Twitter will never do the right thing when it comes to the Nazi hordes or Trump for the reasons that you said. But I don't think that there will even be a branding issue that fixes this, because many of these companies have, because they got lucky and had first mover advantage and grew to quasi-monopoly status. I can't imagine. Everybody hates Facebook now, right? Nobody wants to be on Facebook, but they've basically become the phone book. So how do you even stay off it, particularly if you're someone who has to survive in a white collar workforce, let alone media? You can't not be on there. In fact, employers deem it suspicious if you don't have a social media profile. That's the kind of society we have now. It's not even the dystopian future; it's the present. So I think we need actually political solutions when it comes to dealing with these companies. There's not going to be a market correction. If there's a market correction in the sense that the tech stocks take a dive and a lot of the second-rate companies get wiped out, I mean, that's not going to fix the problem, because it's going to leave the big players that were able to hoard cash in that much of a stronger position. Any sort of brand damage, Facebook in particular has shown that it's very adept at spinning narratives to the extent that the public even gets one narrative. They've been very good at
deflecting attention from their own business model and practices after Cambridge Analytica and blaming rogue actors. Although some good reporting is showing that Facebook itself has a lot more to answer for.
Right.
So we need politicians who will commit to strengthening, the regulatory apparatus, to investigating these companies, looking at all the different angles: antitrust, espionage, fraudulent business practices, consumer protection, privacy protection, surveillance capitalism, all the way down the line. And we need politicians who will do that. And for that to happen, we need people to realize that it's a political problem, not a consumer problem.
And it's also,
switching to some different social media platform. You hear open source advocates promote this approach quite often. It's not enough. It's like when the crypto people talk about, you just need to pick stronger passwords, and we need to educate people so they can protect their information.
Right.
That's not going to do it. The architecture of the internet is not set up in a way that it's going to be secure for people. Like this, we need government action.
So that was
That's
the
my
question.
message.
We definitely need government action, and we need actual power. But the question that I had for you, which is in this sort of interesting tension, because you hear people, including on, very worthwhile projects, and some of these projects will become necessities. Like there's a project in New York City to sort of preserve, net neutrality in the city. That's something that people who, are going to need to figure out at a very practical level, right? So that's all legitimate. But I think that there's a tension between, you're right, on one hand, I like the activism around it because it's going to take social and political movements and action to sort of put the political pressure to bear you're talking about. But at the same time, this notion that people need to be tech savvy in order to deal with tech is part of the problem.
Oh, for sure. I mean, first of all, forget what that means for older people and others who might have difficulty learning these, arcane languages and design interfaces that make sense to young white engineers and not a lot of other people.
Right.
I frankly think that people should have a right not to be bothered by tech,
right?
And not to have to use a computer if they don't want to. The only reason these devices have proliferated so much in our lives and become such a constant presence is because it's profitable for these companies. And I think if we were to construct society in a truly democratic way, and not just what the richest people and the most powerful companies decided our cities and our day-to-day lives should look like and feel like, then we might say, well, maybe we don't need gadgets everywhere. We don't need screens everywhere to broadcast advertising to us. Maybe we could reclaim some of the sort of pleasures of having undistracted time.
Right.
And this is where I can rightly be accused of being a Luddite, although my house is filled with computers and I still like to tinker with them and stuff. I think you need time away from these things. And the addictive aspect of some of these technologies is, I gave a laundry list of stuff that Congress should be looking at. That's one of them.
Yeah.
It's very troubling to me that basically no one knows more about the addictive properties and the manipulative potential of social media than the social media companies. And whatever they know about persuasion, about manipulating people's emotions and moods, and about not only that, their individual preferences, that should be public information. And it's at the level where you need a church committee style congressional inquiry to get to the bottom of it. I mean, this situation has gotten really overwhelming and disturbing in a short amount of time, and I don't think anything short of a big government inquiry could sort it out.
Do you think let's just do Elon Musk for a second, because this shocks me, actually. I'll try to give the least polemical description of him that I can give. because we've done some videos criticizing him, and granted, it's YouTube, so obviously YouTube does have this much more sort of right leaning tilt. But I do think in the popular culture, he's the kind of last vestige of this fantasy about a billionaire who will save you and is this sort of like enlightened wizard that wants to like get you to Mars or whatever. I don't know what people think, but let me give you the least polemical description. Ultra affluent guy from South Africa who's white, so that already should be, I would say, historically, you should ask a few questions if you're a bit historically inclined. Not besmirching him or his family. I'm just saying, like, okay, contextually, that's interesting. I think there's a story of him selling emeralds or something that he pocketed from his dad when he was a kid, or it's just okay, it's eccentric. Then, makes a massive killing along with Peter Thiel with PayPal, which, as I said before, like, of course, I mean, somebody needed to do this in the internet, and they had the wherewithal and the connections and the financing and the tech to do it, and good for them. But like, this isn't some, like, I mean, it's like, yes, you need to pay for things on a new, essentially, commercial service. This is not like genius level thinking to know that would be necessary. And now he apparently accepts the science of climate change and is done some, wants us to give people luxury electric cars, and has this Hyperloop idea, which he used to say, I have to say, it was because, public transportation is icky because somebody could be a serial killer on it. You wouldn't know they were a serial killer or something like that. He's also, like all of these people, has Mars interest. And more recently has been taken to Twitter to sort of, seems to be essentially, I think, if you were to threaten journalists with a rating system because he doesn't like bad coverage of himself. And then actually, ironically, pushed a very almost like, kind of 1990s dorm room progressive idea, which is that like, oh, I get bad coverage because of the oil companies that advertise, man. And, I guess I'm still being a little polemical. I don't think he's like the worst person in the world, but here's a guy who's a plutocrat, a government contractor, very right-leaning in his politics, and maybe has some potentially interesting ideas for sort of like luxury green consumption, none of which have been proven to be viable in mass market production or have shifted climate or any of these big goals he's talked about by his own metrics at all yet. And we also know about the labor violations, so on and so forth. And if you criticize this guy, it always is what fascinates me. It's not even like a, hey, man, I think you're being a little unfair or you're dismissing innovation, which I'm actually not. But you have attacked Jesus sort of, or Muhammad level of reaction to these devotees. Or, of course, Brett Stevens in the New York Times writing a great, like, he attacked Elon Musk and then it turned into a defense of the internal combustion engine, which wasn't a great look. But, Sam Harris, who of course is a big Brett Stevens fan because of their anti-Palestinian politics, tells Brett Stevens to get his shit together because he attacked the great one. What is that about? Like, what's the emotional economy going on there with this bizarre hero worship of this guy?
I mean, Musk is the power fantasy of the geek. I last time I was on TMBS, you played that clip of these fanboys who were like made these videos about. Didn't they call him Daddy at one point?
I think they literally called him Daddy. It
was so over the top that you would have thought it was satire, and that was part of the problem with writing it, the difficulty anyway with writing it, trying to write a satirical work of nonfiction about Silicon Valley's reality keeps going beyond. Musk's fans are really at another level. I mean, they're almost like Scientologists, right? In the sort of way that they've rehearsed answers for every argument and the pile-on. I guess I don't know that they're building dossiers on critics like Scientology, but the reaction is very similar. And I think there's a theme which connects, Musk to Trump and American capitalism in general, and that, and also, the sort of American tolerance and encouragement of cults in general. It's part of our sort of founding ethic, right?
Right.
To tolerate crazy religious ideas of all sorts, and I think that, in the same way that Trump has this cult of personality and Musk has this cult of personality, and they've risen to these positions of power, it shows that to be the head or a figurehead of a corporation, this something of a legal vestige of feudal society. That's how I think of corporations, right? You've got to have a sort of
the sovereigns.
You've got to have the sovereign has to have a propaganda apparatus that reflects glory back to him, and so.
And you can get a little bit, because the thing that always just amazes me is it's like, I guess this is the extent to which I actually do buy some of this logic. It's like, guys, like, you're not part of that. Like, I don't know. Maybe people who are obsessively online and seem to have nothing better to do than defend these people, maybe they're actually secretly like fucking captains of industry. But by their, what it appears is that they're sad guys with a lot of time on their hands. And it's like, you're not part of that winning. Like, are you aware of that? Like, you're not of this. And there's no reflected glory on you for being like a stalker for people that you'll never meet. It's just that's what gets me about it. It's not even
materially speaking, that's true, but clearly they must be getting something out of it emotionally.
Right.
And, that's somewhat mysterious to me, although, if I guess in the same way that a parent can experience, some feeling of validation through pushing their child into, piano lessons or whatever that they couldn't do for themselves. I think that Musk's fanboys have this vicarious sort of genuine feeling of accomplishment or satisfaction.
You're like, man, if I was, I'd be blowing out people's like joints from overwork myself, and I just feel like I busted a cost of living increase request by myself. It feels amazing. Hey, Mom, could you heat up those Hot Pockets? It was a great week. The Musk Industries. Yeah, it's super pathetic and disturbing.
Well, it's the story as old as American capitalism, right?
Yeah,
like, doesn't it go back to the Horatio Alger myths of yore? Like, no, there are no poor people, just temporarily embarrassed millionaires.
Sort of.
For sure.
Yeah, but I think at least with Horatio, at least it's like Horatio Alger didn't say you should be sitting there. Like, it's like, at least if you're buying into that, you shouldn't be like, you should be out attempting to live out that fantasy. Like, there's something like even more mediated by it.
Well, many of them are. Who do you think is running the 2-bit internet get rich quick schemes?
Right.
I mean,
right.
There are people at the end of these websites, somewhere. And this is what I say about how I used to be a true believer before I started the book. I mean, I was reading all of this stuff mostly to learn how to code and do all that development work. But you couldn't absorb that without getting some of the entrepreneurial propaganda on the side, right?
Right.
And there's different flavors of it, and Musk's gets the people that sort of see themselves as environmental do-gooders or whatever. Right. So there's anyway.
Right. Okay. We only have we're actually way over. We have like a minute left, but Jamie has a quick question for you. Go ahead.
Hey, Corey. So, as we've talked about, like, so much of tech money and so much of the profits that are being made are built around minimizing the cost of labor, whether that's the people driving cars for your illegal cab company or the people literally writing the code. And I think there's this romanticized idea in the tech industry of like, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And also the idea that we just talked about, that everyone could eventually become an entrepreneur, start their own company and become an exploiter themselves and make tons of money. But our tech, as these things develop, are tech workers starting to see themselves as workers and organize in some collective way? Like, what is your experience of that?
I think that they are. I think that was just beginning in its earliest stages when I was doing my reporting. But one example of this you see is Google employees basically getting together, doing a petition, and forcing the company to abandon a big defense contract working on basically AI and Skynet. And there was an article in Jacobin. They did a Q&A with an anonymous Google employee who talked about how they did it. And that's worth a read because it kind of recaps this story. And it just came out yesterday. If you check my feed or Boss Carson Carr's Twitter feed, you'll find it easily. I recommend that. And I know you've got to... and also, I should say on that point, I've been approached at readings by people who are sort of inside the companies and wondering what they can do. And I usually tell them there are others like you. You might have to keep your head down at the office, but go to a DSA group or something, and you'll find a lot of tech workers who are getting developing a class consciousness.
So Corey, we're about to run, but tonight you have a reading.
It's actually tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. Okay,
so
let everybody know about that.
I know you have listeners in Portland. Tomorrow night, that's Friday, June 8th, at Powell's City of Books on Burnside, 7:30 p.m.
Okay,
so
everybody.
Come out if you can.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Corey's a great reader. I caught him in Brooklyn. The book is Live, Work, 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 Die, A Journey to the Savage Heart of Silicon Valley. Corey Pein, thanks a million as always. I appreciate it.
Great to be on. Nice talking to you.
Bye. Okay, everybody, we're going to go to the fun half where we're going to continue to have fun. Become a member of the Majority Report today, majority.fm/become a member or click support on the Majority Report homepage. JustCoffee.coop. You know, all that stuff. All that stuff that keeps Sam in his 4-day work week. Hi, I have a proposition for you. Have you ever wanted to work a 4-day work week and talk about politics and why Republicans are bad? I have a guaranteed money-making system for podcasts. That would actually be a funny character. Sam, internet marketing wizard. No, but seriously, do that today. Subscribe to Majority Report on iTunes. Leave it a review or a rating. Where are we at on YouTube, Matt? Those like in terms of subscribers on YouTube.
Oh, we're gonna hit 300K in the next 2 weeks, probably.
So if you haven't done it yet, now is the time. Matt, Literary Hangover. Tell everybody about it.
Literary Hangover is my new podcast. It's a book sort of history podcast. We go into the sort of historical context that sort of created the books and are sort of represented by them. Patreon.com/literary hangover.
Jamie, what's going on with Antifada?
Well, we just recorded our second premium episode, and this one is really exciting for us because it's interactive. So we took a lot of questions by email from our listeners and answered pretty much all of them. So that should be out in a couple days. Check it out.
Sweet. And of course, TMBS, new Woke Bros coming out. The new offering exclusively for TMBS and Count the Dings patrons. Tuesday, Assad Haider, Alona Minkowski. We had another great post game. This Sunday, Mark Blythe, and a new Right Wing Mandela animation. So we're on the move. Patreon.com/TMBS. We will see you in the fun half.
You are in for it. All right, folks. 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Alpha males are back. Boy, back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy, back. And the alpha males are back. back.
Just want to degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Almost has what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
I am a total cunt.
Can we bring back DJ Danerky's song, please?
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Danerky.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break for people.
That's fucking nonsense.
Hey, folks, reminder.
I do not have Parkinson's.
And the alpha males are...
Psych. Fuck them. Almost has what? Almost says what? Hell of a lot of bank. 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 Hell of a lot of bank.
All lives matter. Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
And the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black African. And the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black.
You see Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keeping it 100. Can't knock the hustle. Come on! Fuck them. Fuck things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday! Happy birthday to me, Jew boy! I have a thought experiment for you.
And the alpha males are back. Africans are black. Alpha males are back. Africans are black.
Come on! What? Come on! What? Come on! Someone needs to pay the price for blasphemy around here.
I am a total
Pussy.
Total pussy. Welcome to the fun half. Michael Brooks here. We're all here. Let's start with a call. You're calling from a 928 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Drake's soul burning real slow right now, man.
Yes, sir. I was listening to it. I was listening to it again on the way to work this morning. I love it.
I called you a couple weeks ago. I said, "Push your album gonna be something serious. I gotta listen to it." And what happened? You know, I ain't never lied.
Never. You're 100% right.
Today I actually called to talk about work, homie.
Tell me.
Yeah. So what I do, man, is I case manage.
Yeah.
For kids that are displaced.
Right.
But I also work with a small refugee population here in the Bay Area, and there are two main groups, but the main group we work with is a group called Catholic Charities. So I'm getting kids from like Honduras, Guatemala,
right.
But Eritrea,
yep,
Bosnia, and I ain't gonna lie to you, Michael, the work I do is real tough.
Yeah.
And I'll just walk you through one of the, because this topic is largely forgotten, man.
Yeah.
Among all the BS that's going on. Do you know that we actually only take about at a time, we really only have about 300 to 400 kids. We're only United States is one of the only two countries that does it. It's Sweden and us that take unaccompanied kids as refugees, and we only take a few hundred a year.
Right.
And when you're talking about refugees, dog, like, we're not talking about like, oh yeah, illegals crossing the border. Not that I give a shit about that, but we're talking about kids who, but no, I'm just being clear.
Yeah, go ahead.
People forget, and so I'll give you an example. This girl that I got, this client, she's Eritrean, very beautiful young lady. She's about 16 right now.
Right.
And she's, I've been working with her for about a year, and she's finally having like this breakdown. Usually kids got about 6 months before they start breaking down. They realize, you know what, as much as I love my iPhone and all that, man, I miss the Horn of Africa, or I miss, Eastern Europe.
Right.
And the thing is that her story is, she was in a, war-torn camp, there's a conflicted area, and she liked her life, man. Like, people don't understand, like, these people like where they live. Not all of them come from these super poor backgrounds. Everyone's different.
Right.
But
right.
Once gunfire starts, then you got to leave.
Right.
And so with her,
right.
She was trafficked. She was trafficked. She's at this refugee camp, and she said that peacekeepers mistreated her.
Yep. That's a very common
and
story.
she was,
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is that what makes it hard is she was saying that, like, I'm here, but my mom is dying, my uncle is dying. How am I supposed to be happy? I'd rather be there. She didn't choose to come here.
Right.
She did not choose it. The UN and a few other groups, they designate her here.
Yeah.
And the sad part is now that she's sort of like what kind of grasping how TV and all that works. She asked me. She said, "There's not that many people who come here as refugees. This country has lots of money.
Right.
Why can't my family come?" And I could give her some semantical BS, answer.
Yeah.
But I didn't have one, man.
Right.
I didn't have one.
There isn't an answer. There isn't.
No.
Of course.
No.
I'm sorry. Somebody keeps calling.
The thing is,
Sorry.
What was that?
Nothing. Don't worry about it. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to say, man, that there's a lot of issues that people can forget about, but when you force Americans to look into the face of these people and these youth who, had no choice in anything, and we have the resources and don't care to use them. I'd rather a kid be living at the poverty line here than to go through what she was going through,
Yeah.
And so with that said, the last thing I'll say is I got another kid from Central America.
Yeah.
Who said straight up he didn't want to come here.
Right.
He said he wanted to go somewhere else. Do you know why? He told me in Spanish. The translation would be, he said, because MS-13 killed my whole family. And they say MS-13 started here.
Yep.
Why would I want to come here?
Yep.
And now me being from California, I know all about that. I'm from here.
Right.
But like when you break it down and among the demonizing, nobody's looking at, hey, these guys started here. They got stronger when Clinton deported them.
Yep.
So it's just like no one wants to look at that, and don't nobody give a shit. So people like me, have to pick up the pieces, and I don't make shit.
Yep.
At least compared to these other, Silicon Valley cats.
Yep.
I don't make nothing.
Yep.
I do it because I genuinely love it.
Right.
Just like I listen to this show because I genuinely love it.
Right.
And I'm not trying to kiss your ass here, but a lot of geopolitical things that I'm not able to focus on, you guys do.
Right.
And so that's why I called and I wanted to bring this to light because I know that you guys will, put a spotlight on it.
Definitely.
And but don't let that shit distract you. Drake in blackface is still disgraceful. That motherfucker's finished. Fuck.
Yes.
Good call, man.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks,
Seriously, what you're
Appreciate
doing is amazing. Thank you for doing it.
We'll figure it out after. But if there are any like weird noises from the Skype, it's because
someone's calling the Skype number.
Yeah. I don't know what's
Don't
that?
call a Skype number, everybody.
Definitely. If somebody is listening and doing it, don't do that. I will not ever take your call. You're calling from a 518 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Michael, can you hear me?
I can hear you. How you doing?
Yes, it's
Dave
I'm
from
doing fine.
Jamaica.
Yes, Dave from Jamaica again. I wasn't expecting to get through this fast. Hey, Jamie. Matt. All right, let me jump right into it then.
Right into it. Yeah.
Right into it. So,
I'm going to shadow you for a couple of weeks, and I'm going to have it down.
I was thinking, like, the nature I'm seeing in the States where conservatives, I know they have a generational problem, and as time goes, they're going to get smaller and smaller votes share, right?
Right.
to avoid the things that happen in Jamaica, where politics becomes less ideological and more tribal and more about resource management nakedly, right?
Uh-huh.
How do you guys think you're going to avoid that? Because all you need is one side to go tribal, and then it kind of forces the other side to do the same. And that's when violence on a larger scale can be more likely. Do you guys think there's any way to avoid it? Or
I think
I'll leave that.
I don't know. I mean, obviously there is a way. I mean, there are a lot more institutional blocks. What I'm going to need to do after I'm done with Dave is we're going to need to get on Skype and block this person on Skype. I think that there is a way in which we can, you can't draw a direct comparison between the United States and Jamaica because obviously there's a lot more institutional safeguards in the United States, right? And the type of at least as far as I understand, I know it's changed significantly, but like going into the 70s and having like literal resource conflict, like we're going to build a garrison here, bulldoze out, like, oh, you voted for PNP, we're going to burn your house down. And so I think that, but yeah, I mean, I don't think my instinct, and I don't know how we do it, but it's like one of those things where it's like, if you want to stop a complete descent of tribalism, then people are going to need to get tribal because responding with norms, but that's reality. Responding with norms is only going to get more disaster. I mean, the classic example that we use is if the Democrats get into power and they say, okay, well, we'll get back to norms. So we won't block what you're doing to the judiciary. Well, then you're just forfeiting basically the entire political apparatus to, the Republican sort of locking in oligarchy in the long term. So
right, that's why I'm kind of concerned because I was never a turn the other cheek guy because the other guy's just going to knock the other cheek.
Nor should you be.
Right.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm seeing the bankruptness of that philosophy.
Well,
I guess another quick point. I guess the thing to explain the Elon Musk stuff, think of sports fans. Like a lot of people in life lose a lot. So they will attach victory, even if it's not real, to anybody else for that emotional catharsis. Like, I like Usain Bolt, but when he wins a race, I am not winning.
And it's I got to tell you, sports fandom is so much more like legit, cool, and like reasonable. Like this whole that makes sense. Okay. And you can be invested in a team in a way, like emotionally. I get that. But
I guess for me, I'm never that attached.
Well, that's fine. But no sports team is actively jeopardizing like journalism. I mean, all right. I got to let you go, Dave, because we got to block this person on Skype. Guys. Thanks so much.
Later.
Thank you. Okay. Matt, can you come over here? You're not going to call in. I don't know who you are.
Can you just turn off the sound?
No, you can't turn off the sound because that's how people. What? You want me to call this guy back?
Just pick it up. Like what?
What do you want?
Who is this?
I don't know. I guess I won't say their full name. What do you want?
Hello, this is Sebastian Gorka.
Oh, you motherfucker. Oh my God. Okay, this person is blocked. You're blocked. You just called 10 times and interrupted the show
to give the most lukewarm Gorka take.
We should almost say that person's Skype name publicly. Honestly, fuck you, dude.
Yeah,
you stupid bitch. You get doxxed. How do you like that?
Call in the right number.
Don't ever fucking do that. That is so fucking irritating. Fucking moron.
We're lucky Sam's not here.
No, maybe you're lucky. Maybe
Sam would have probably talked to that guy for 20 minutes.
Yeah, Sam would have been like, okay, do you have anything else? The trick with Sam would have been like, I'm a libertarian. Seriously, I don't... Dude.
You might have ruined voices for all the callers now.
Now voice impressions are banned.
This is why we can't have nice things.
He literally DM'd, I'm trying to call in. Dude, you're not fucking H. John Benjamin. Okay, somehow you got this number. Motherfucker. A fucking idiot.
You're dumb as a dog.
No, you're not as dumb as a dog.
It
Dogs are fucking honorable.
It feels so invasive that
It's harassment. He just called like 7 times to do that.
Let's move on.
I was actually entertaining the fact that there was an actual emergency that somebody thought we might be able to help with. Fucking idiot. You're calling from a 650 area code. How are you? Where are you calling from?
What's up, Michael? It's Garrett from Sacramento.
Hey, Garrett. What's going on?
Just wanted to talk to you about the whole Candace Owens, Joe Rogan interview.
Oh, you really want to elevate my mood now, don't you?
Oh, unfortunately, I subjected myself to it last night. And, I've seen a lot from, Joe Rogan fans saying, he did such a good job defending, climate change and stuff. And, I didn't think he did that great of a job.
Right.
I mean, he only challenged her on it because she brought it up.
Right.
I mean, he has Steven Crowder and Ben Shapiro on, and he just doesn't say anything to him,
Yeah.
And I just don't get it.
Right.
Why don't we how is he seen as the left?
I don't know that
He's
Joe
not.
Rogan is seen as the left.
Yeah, he's not.
I don't know that he's seen as the left. I mean, I think that people.
No, I mean not the left, but on the left.
I don't know that he's. I don't know. I haven't. I've heard people say that he's not conservative, and maybe and I buy that he's what people call centrist. I don't know. I think what happens with Joe Rogan is I think that people like Joe Rogan, and they like to create, a little bit of daylight for him because they like him. I think it's as simple as that. And I relate to it because I like Joe Rogan in some ways too. But I mean, I accept that his politics are definitely not my politics.
My cousins that like Joe Rogan like him because he's not political.
He's charismatic and all, and I mean, yeah, he seems like a nice guy, but
yeah, I think it's as simple as that. People identify with him and they want to be friends with him, and so they're looking for ways to not have him be on the right or whatever. I mean, I think that's basically what it is. I mean, look, I would still happily go on someone like Joe Rogan's show. I think it'd be great if people could make that kind of case. But at the same time, I also think basically that's not his show. I mean, he's I don't know. I'm kind of. I think he's baked into the cake.
Glorified Dave Rubin to me, man.
Well, he's before Dave Rubin.
Much more talented.
Yeah, and I mean, there is no comparison on talent levels.
Well, no, I mean, he pushes his guests a little bit more than Dave Rubin does, but not much.
No, he's just better.
I mean,
Dave Rubin's just bad.
He did the whole the whole race issue that he did with Candace Owens was pathetic. I mean, he basically lets her off saying, "Hey, there's no racism. It's fine,
Right.
It's never gonna go away."
Right.
Man, I wouldn't be surprised to see him bring Jesse Lee Peterson on the show soon.
That would be quite an escalation if you had a Jesse Lee Peterson. Jesse Lee Peterson's something else. All right, man. Appreciate the call. Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, let's do some sound. I just wonder, how the hell did that guy even get that number?
I had an answer to Dave's question too, and I was really excited about it. And then the fucking Skype sounds up.
Oh,
okay.
So go for it. Circle back.
Yeah, circling back. Yeah, I think what you said is correct. We need left populism in our electoral politics as much as possible, and we need to fight as dirty as the right is. And at the same time, I think we need to be building alternative networks outside of that space so that we are ready if it ever does degrade into some competition for resources, tribalist state of nature, et cetera, whatever. Occupy Wall Street, for instance, people like to make fun of it it was never going to accomplish the goal of abolishing capitalism, and I don't think anyone was dumb enough to think that it would, but it did set forth sort of an alternative vision for how we could be cooperating in order to run society with the free library and the soup kitchens and all that stuff. And we put it into action, actually, right after Occupy was over and kind of petered out, and everyone was like, oh, what do we do now with these networks? Superstorm Sandy hit New York really fucking hard.
Right.
And we were ready. Like, it just seemed like a no-brainer to go down there and do mutual aid. Like, I bought gas on Craigslist. I got a bunch of my friends together, and we were there before anybody else was there. We were there before the government. The only other group that got there that day was a big Christian group from Pennsylvania. So that's just like a small, and like they asked people what they needed before they went. Like those, because it's mutual aid. It's not just charity, like dropping in, like, here's some food or whatever we've decided that you need. And that's
Other people,
like,
they don't need food. Fuck that. No, I'm just kidding.
that's,
No, I
like,
hear, yeah.
That's an alternative vision for how we could be cooperating to help each other out. And that's so important to be doing in addition to all of the electoral stuff.
It's complementary and mutually enhancing, for sure. Scott Pruitt actually has some messages about change and what happens when you try to implement change. And I just want to say, like, first, I want to guess if people can tell what he's talking about. And secondly, I want to say that, look, obviously, I couldn't be more diametrically opposed to Scott Pruitt and different from him in every way, shape, and form. But, I mean, when a guy is a point, the guy is a point. So let's check out Gandhi Pruitt over here.
I just think with great change comes, I think opposition. I mean, there's significant change that's happening across not only at the EPA, but across this administration, and it's needed. Look, my wife is an entrepreneur herself. She loves, we love. Chick-fil-A is a franchise of faith, and it's one of the best in the country. And so that's something we were very excited about. So, and we need more of them in Tulsa, and we need more of them across the country. So anyway, it's an exciting time.
Embody the change you seek in the world. Go eat at some homophobic fast food joint. Also, apparently, is this a different clip?
Yeah, I hear that
Wait,
Pruitt,
is this a different...
Pruitt's been eating at some quality food joints.
Yeah, and also that apparently he has been ordered to not eat in the White House. The White House wants the EPA administrator to stop eating at the White House mess, where he's overworking the kitchen, and that he should not treat the mess as his personal dining hall. Here are some places he's eating. Okay, he has a great condo deal for $50 a night.
You should note this is from Fox News Research.
This is from Fox News. Yeah, this is kind of mind-blowing.
Which I did not know there was a Fox News Research at Fox News Research Twitter account.
Why didn't you think we had research?
It must be the
We don't do research?
Is that like the Murdoch boys or something?
Yeah, Lachlan. Fuck you. He has 12 pens, which are worth $1,560. Nice pens.
$120 a pen.
Yep. Journals, cumulatively worth, it just says journals, I don't know how many, 1,670. Trump Hotel mattress for $1,750. Apparently, though, he asked his aide to look for used mattresses. That gets into some very gnarly territory right there. Conceptually. Private mini 40-minute flight, $5,719. PR, which he is in need of, I'll give him that, $6,500. That's actually like the first one that sounds very within budget, because PR firms will. Chick-fil-A franchise, $10K.
Now, I don't think he's got that yet. I think this Fox News Research might be getting a bit ahead of themselves.
Yeah, I don't understand this.
They don't link to anything either. That's Fox News.
Yeah, I don't understand. Phone booth, $43K. He installed his own phone booth?
he has. It's a security thing.
Oh, okay. So it's like Get Smart.
Yeah, so you can talk.
He has like a cone where he's just like, yes, we are going to drill in those mountains.
Yes.
You're like, hold on, honey, I'm putting on the cone. Yes, we can put, definitely can put arsenic in that kid's water. Hold on one second. Yes, we can definitely get rid of that national monument. No problem. 2 desks, $70K.
Wow, that is like a car.
I wonder if I hope he's putting in some work with one of his staff on that desk. Actually, I really hope he's not. Friends pay raises $85K.
Holla.
Hell yeah. That's how you take care of your boys. Italy trip, $120K, because fuck it, we can just go to Italy. Like, you're despoiling the planet and making the earth uninhabitable. You may as well take in one of the most beautiful countries in the globe.
Probably even as a
While
time
you
with
still
a
can.
reasonable euro too.
Yeah. And then security, $3.5 million. That's amazing. Like, most people have no idea who this guy is.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like he shouldn't have like whatever, have a little
I think we
detail.
should shame them into like cutting costs there.
Yeah, I think that's ridiculous. I would like to. What are you, a pussy?
And wait,
Yeah.
where
That's my big question. Is Scott Pruitt such a massive pussy that he needs that amount on security?
where is all this money coming from?
The government, federal government, EPA budget.
It seems a bit of a stretch. Some of these things.
Tax dollars at work.
It seems odd that you'd be able to spend government money on some of the things on this list.
Government money on being awesome.
Although I do want to, and Brendan and I were talking
Yeah,
about
I'm not
this.
interested in that line of argument.
Yeah,
though.
like-
I'm interested. Like, spend all the government money you want. I don't care that it's tax dollars.
I do think like state employees should be like they should be able to just commandeer like first class seats from rich people and stuff. Like if you work for the government.
Yes, right, exactly. If this is a situation where somebody's making like $75,000 a year as an EPA scientist, they could get on like a United flight and be like, "Get the fuck out of my seat! I do research on asthma." No, get to the back of the plane immediately.
I guess he's got to do something with all of his time because, his actual job, which is destroying the EPA, doesn't really take 40 hours a week. So
That's why I don't
might as well do
understand.
some journaling.
I don't understand why it seems like some of the right is turning on him too. Like it's weird because it seems like they would easily look past all this stuff. Like Fox News research isn't doing ways Donald Trump is wasting money, tweet.
Well, you can pick your sort of like he's the guy who's we get to pretend that we're journalists guy.
Right.
He's like and it doesn't really matter.
Pressure release valve.
Yeah, he's your pressure, and it's not like whoever replaces him, if he ever gets replaced, isn't also going to be, utterly catastrophic and most likely probably engage in the same kind of practices. So they can just, roll it out. Do we have the sound drop ready for this sound? The Pusha T sound drop? Did we do that? We didn't do that?
I don't really have an instrumental version of that.
Okay, Rudy Giuliani. We've got a little two-parter from him. I love how it's like this administration is so relentless that they're like, yeah, we're also bringing Giuliani back. It's like everything that's bad, you're going to get a big dose of. And so we're going through another national serving of Giuliani. And here he is. Look, I don't care about this kind of thing. This is one of these things that people got really worked up with about over on Twitter the past couple of days. But it's just kind of like, wow, on every possible level. Wow, from just the sort of innate level that this is just sort of a scummy line of attack by a scummy man. It's also wow on the by your logic level that like, wow, you really want to talk about fucking like Donald Trump and like who he is and who he marries, like whatever. Okay.
It's also wow in the sense that like a lot of these old guys are basically like human time capsules for like attitudes.
They're just sort of like, I just came out of Mad Men, and this is that time, and so this is Rudy Giuliani really throwing down a marker on Stormy Daniels because I'm sure that he's never watched porn.
Her husband, she knows it's untrue. I don't even think there's a slight suspicion that it's true when you look at Stormy Daniels. I know Donald Trump.
Pause it. That was pretty ballsy. I like that.
Glass houses, motherfucker.
All right.
When I look at Stormy Daniels and I think of Donald Trump, I'm like, oh, that makes sense, actually.
Right. That actually totally syncs up. Yeah.
I know Donald Trump.
Although Stormy Daniels was awesome when she was just like they were like Anderson Cooper's like, did you want to have sex with him? She's like, fuck no, he's old as shit. All right, keep going.
I know Donald Trump, and look at his three wives, right? Beautiful women, classy women, women of great substance. Stormy Daniels. I respect all human beings. I even have to respect, criminals. But I'm sorry, I don't respect a porn star the way I respect a career woman or a woman of substance or a woman who has great respect for herself as a woman and as a person and isn't going to sell her body for sexual exploitation. So, Stormy, you want to bring a case? Let me cross-examine.
Does he know? Is that eye bulge thing a lying thing, or is that like a whoa? I just really said something that's very ballsy of me to say, because he does do that when he's just like the president could do whatever he wants, or the he sounds like Harvey Firestein now, doesn't he? But
and so close to International Whores Day.
I also have to say too, like, I mean, dude, like, I mean, again, I totally don't care, and the line of attack is gross, but like, Melania was literally a softcore, like
Trump retweeted
that's like,
it.
yeah, she did that, like,
Well,
and that's
no.
fine. That's just a very weird point of contrast that you want to establish there.
He draws the line clearly between the respectable soft porn performers
right.
and the disgusting hardcore performers.
Which means he's less dogmatic than Pusha T on that issue.
Pusha T is, well, look, Pusha T is Pusha T is making a different kind of point and nailing it. So don't even bring that in. But Rudy, I mean, yeah, I guess that's this thing. It's like, that was for a French magazine and it was a still image, and that's completely different.
There's a lot of airbrushing.
There's a lot of airbrushing. So
Yeah, is he going to become like a fucking swerf just by horseshoe theory or something?
I don't know what a swerf is.
Is he like? Is he now like a
what is it? I'm sorry. What is it?
Sex worker exclusionary.
Radical feminist?
Oh, okay, got it.
Is he going to be
No,
like?
he's not.
Porn is demeaning to women.
Yeah, he just said that.
You should find something better to do with, as if it's not much more honest work than what he's doing with his life.
I think he's just the sex worker exclusionary part of that.
Yeah, I don't think definitely not the radical feminist part. No, yeah.
It would be funny if he linked up with those people.
Don't wait for it. Yeah.
I'm basically just trying to get you to do a character now.
I'm trying to think of okay.
Because I can't.
I'm
do
a
the voice.
feminist. I mean, I'm a it's like Andrea Dawkins said.
You're serving patriarchy.
You're
when
serving
you take your clothes off.
patriarchy. You're reinforcing. He fucking bulges their eyes out. It's like, what are you? You're performing for men in a way that's very.
Yes.
Fuck Rudy Giuliani. God. All right. And now, as if to add just grotesque to insult, Rudy went to an apartheid state to perform a bad restaurant dance. We have video of that too.
It's so light in there.
Wait, is that I forgot who that is.
Who's dancing on
No,
the table?
It's a classy lady.
Oh.
Professional woman.
Yeah.
Clearly.
That's definitely a professional Israeli woman.
Yeah, from the way she's dancing, I would say so.
It's weird
Actually, she
because
might literally be a professional woman.
This looks like
ironically.
this looks like a cafeteria or something.
I was gonna say this could be Williamsburg.
It looks like
Yeah.
It looks like Italy.
Oh, that was Major Lazer.
Does.
This prick is dancing to Major Lazer. I knew that was Major Lazer. What you have, sir? At long last, have you no decency? Have you no? And by the way, respect criminals. You didn't even respect innocent people that your cops sodomized. When Amadou Diallo, I believe it was Amadou Diallo who got shot, I think upwards of 40 times for reaching for a wallet. I'm actually mixing these cases up. There was one case where somebody in his administration released somebody's juvenile record so as to cast aspersions on their character after they had either been sexually violated by police or murdered. And in another case, Giuliani himself said he wasn't a choir boy. About somebody that his cops had like either shot or brought to the station house and anally raped with plungers. So that's a real foundational human respect from Rudy Giuliani.
It's weird, like
his early attitude about what Trump can do in office was exactly his attitude about what NYPD could do about anybody that wasn't white in this city.
And just to mention, he also said some dumb shit about the Singapore North Korea meeting, saying that Kim Jong-un groveled on his knees.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Thanks,
really helping us out for that meeting there, you fucking moron. God. I hope when Rudy Giuliani dies, if there is an afterlife, he is just frozen. There was a Japanese movie once where the afterlife was that you spent a couple of weeks in a sort of purgatory, but the purgatory was a very friendly purgatory. And what you did was you chose the moment that you wanted to live in for eternity. And then you stepped into a film set and they recreated it for you. And that was it. You could choose that 30 seconds and just live in that state for perpetuity. It was a very sweet movie. I would like a mean version of that for Giuliani, where he is just basically in the front row of the Yankee game getting booed at for eternity. That's his Rudy Giuliani. Hey, boo! Fuck you, Rudy. And that's all he experiences.
On his birthday, no less.
On his birthday, no less. And it'll be even more perfect because he'll be right there. Like in another minute, he would be enjoying the game. But it's just going to freeze right at that moment of, the people of this city hate you.
Is Major Lazer the one where there's a lot of daggering?
Well, daggering is, I don't know, it's
I'm
not
just
specific to
imagining
Major
Rudy.
Lazer. Yeah, well, the disgusting thing is I could picture Rudy daggering, so please don't bring that up. I don't think Rudy's never been not able to engage in that part of life. I think Rudy is another one who like publicly announced he was ditching a wife at a press conference. It's like Athova. There was another girl who sold makeup testing kits and tortured animals, and she's significantly more attractive than you. So, goodbye. Peace out. And then, of course, there's the sketch where Rudy is dressed as a woman and Trump motorboats her. So, great. Have you already watched that sketch like 20 years ago? And you're like, oh, you know what's cool is that the guy who's motorboating is going to be president, and the guy that's being motorboated is going to be on national television saying that the guy that's motorboating him could kill somebody but not be removed because he's president. That's what's going to happen. Great.
That's some real doom shit right there.
Yeah.
Still a funny video, though.
Next time Rudy dances like that, somebody should fly a flaming kite into the...
Yeah, I know. I was watching that. I was just thinking, I was like, where do I get my Hamas card? Where do I get my official Hamas
Seriously.
membership? Like, where are the kites? Okay. The NFL is under assault. And let's make a distinction here. You know, in the NBA, they always stand for the anthem. And the reason is because they actually have a joint agreement between the players union and the owners that they jointly agreed to on that, which already takes it into a completely different realm than what they've done in the NFL as far as suppressing the speech and expression of their players and also treating grown male professionals as children. This is Malcolm Jenkins, who plays for the Eagles, holding up a sign in protest in relation to the White House cancellation of the White House celebration. And I'm going to read from it. I guess he's holding it in
There's
silence.
a few of them he goes through.
He goes, it's hard, but is this written on this sheet, though?
I wrote it all down.
You wrote it all down, right? So we're good. So if you're watching it, I'll just read them over. I don't know if I'll always be overlapping with the signs he's holding, but I'll read so you get the message across. All right, let's play this. It says you aren't listening to the more than 60% of people in prison are of color. Nearly 200,000 juveniles enter the adult prison system each year, most for nonviolent crimes. Hashtag stop the school to prison pipeline. You aren't listening. In 2018, 439 people shot and killed by police thus far in the U.S. Population 8% of African Americans shot by police, 25% equal African American males on every given night, 500,000 sit in jail. Convicted? ? No. Poor? Yes. Hashtag end cash bail. That's really important. True patriots, Anquan Bolden, Doug Baldwin, Richard Sherman, Devin McCarthy, Josh Norman, Chris Long, Torrey Smith, Rodney McLeod, Michael Bennett, Ben Watson, Demario Davis, Carl Davis, Kevin Beachbaum, Matt Slater, Josh McCown, Durhorn Harmon, Johnson Badmosi, Ben Watson, Demario Davis helped push through House Bill 265 restoring voting rights for returning citizens. Devin McCarthy, Duran Harmon, Matt Slater, and Johnson Badamasi lobbied to raise the age from 7 to 12 to entering the criminal justice system. That's still way too young, but that's insane that you could be 7. You aren't listening. Colin Kaepernick gave $1 million to charity. Chris Long gave his entire year's salary to educational initiatives. You aren't listening. And that's exactly right. We're going to play... which one is this one you have up now? Oh, okay. We could do this one, and then we'll play the funny video. So Chelsea Manning apparently a couple of days ago on Twitter threatened to kill herself. And obviously, if somebody publicly states that, people should check in on them and provide them some support, help. This is actually something that's happened several times, though, in the United States. Calls that begin with people basically being in a state where they need help, and then police entering their homes with guns drawn. It's really bizarre. This is footage of police entering Chelsea Manning's house, and this is a very overused phrase, but calling it a wellness check really, I mean, Orwellian really is the only word for this. They're entering her house, guns drawn. Check this out. Barging into the door here. She was not home when this happened, but security cameras, I guess in both her house and in the building, caught the scene. So basically, they bust open the door and they walk in, guns drawn, flashlights out. I mean, they're responding. It looks like as if somebody had said, I'm like in my house with a bunch of guns and I'm planning on like going a rampage or something.
Yeah, it's like they're expecting traps.
Yeah, they're expecting like booby traps or something. Not The Intercept is publishing this with Manning's permission, and this is what the state looks like, she said. So this is a incredibly bizarre.
It makes me want
reaction.
Cameras like this in my apartment, actually.
Wellness checks like this too often end in police harming the person they're dispatched to help. According to the ACLU, police shot and killed 64 people with mental health issues so far in 2018. I mean, it's just like, there's so much to live for. Get on the fucking ground.
Seriously.
Don't hurt yourself. Hands up, we'll fucking kill you. So, yeah.
This happens a lot, unfortunately. Like, the cops do not have any ability to help people who are having mental health episodes.
Well, and to be totally, I mean, this is an area where actually cops have a valid, like, this is another area where because of mass cuts into, like, public health infrastructure and into, like, people being in social service jobs and other functions that are broadly needed in society, cops, in a weird way, like teachers, are actually, like, asked to sort of perform functions like this, which they should not be asked to do.
Yeah.
And they should not be put in those situations for their own sake as well. So it's a completely valid complaint by cops as well. Now, we do have an example from Canada of a cop being pretty fucking cool. I have to admit, this is the most charming video I've ever seen. I hope it's real. A part of me does feel like it's potentially staged, but let's just go with it's real. This is a cop. He's doing a local news interview. He's standing basically on an overpass above a highway, and below him, 2 guys are in their car, and they're like jawboning each other. They're like about to, I mean, they clearly don't really want to get into a fight, but they're yelling at each other and whatever. And watch how this cop responds. Watch the Canadian response to de-escalation.
There's a road rage incident just right there.
Hey! Now's the time. Hey! Get back in the car. Grow up. Sit down or you're going to get arrested.
Listen to the officer.
Both of you, grow up. Come on, boys. Move it. Everybody's a winner. Don't worry.
That's one of one of the most charming things I've seen in a long time.
That is the kind of nuanced bystander intervention that American cops need to learn.
I love the part where, what does he say again? He's like, come on, boys.
Yeah, like
everybody's a winner. That's so fucking great.
Get back in the car. Grow up.
Grow up.
Sit down or you're going to get arrested. Both of you, grow up. Come on, boys. Move it. Everybody's a winner. Don't
That cop is so cool. I hope that's a real video.
That's
It's
how you
awesome.
would imagine police were if like you only watched like Mr. Rogers growing up.
Right. Right.
Come on, boys.
Come on, boys. So emasculating. Just like, I'm just like, the overpass. Like, I'm not even going to pretend that this is a thing. You're both embarrassing yourselves, and I'm doing both of you a favor. Just shut up, get in your cars. It's great. And then that perfect condescending, like, everybody's a winner. I'm just so fucking just. He just landed that. Do we have any more sound? We could do our final piece of sound if we have more. Oh no. We have Charlie Kirk. So this is an interesting. I want to just say, like, I think that these are tweets. Okay. Kim Kardashian, like, whatever. I mean, I don't really. Again, it's one of these things I don't care one way or another. But there was all this melodrama and criticism of her for going to Trump. And look, if people pin their hopes on systemic criminal justice reform because of Kim Kardashian, obviously that's ridiculous. It's not going to happen. But why anybody thinks there's an innate problem with her watching a video on Mike about a horrible injustice done to a woman, or anybody for that matter, in this case, this woman, Alice Johnson, and knowing she has a line to Trump and realizing that she could potentially save this woman's life, why the hell wouldn't she do that? It's a complete no-brainer and something that required, like, no effort, no criticism, no melodrama from any, like, resistance people. And she went, and Trump did it. Obviously, Trump presides over an administration which is accelerating everything from police abuse to prison industrial complex, reversing the beginning steps of small reforms during the late Obama administration, and has a neo-Confederate bigot attorney general. This isn't systemic, but it makes total sense. Kim Kardashian was the last person in the room, and Kanye likes him, so Trump was able to do the right thing by someone, and this is great. I'm really glad that this woman's free.
In this case, Trump, he gets it, he got it kind of thing.
Exactly. I mean, look, if Trump pardoned Alice Johnson and has a deal with North Korea, then cool. Props to Donald Trump.
Yeah, like,
he's still one of the worst human beings in the history of the earth.
The worry would be him using it for like a propagandistic thing, which we can counter if and when he does.
And so we'll counter some of it right now. Charlie Kirk, the goober hack who is the head of Turning Points USA.
It's created by Foster Freeze in a mason jar.
Created by Foster, right. This is just a sort of mediocre young pawn of plutocrats who's trying to sort of, push fascism for a younger demo. Took to Twitter and he said, Trump courageously signs pardon of Alice Johnson, an elderly woman over-sentenced for nonviolent drug charges on her and her first offense. Obama refused to do this, and Obama stepped up to the plate to right a wrong.
Trump stepped up to the plate.
Yeah, Kim Kardashian stepped up to the plate, and yes, Obama obviously should have let her out of prison as well. That's true. On his last day in office, Obama...
But this tweet, I should note, was a few days earlier. So it's completely different.
Oh, okay. So this is June.
Whenever the Alice Johnson thing. Yeah.
Okay, so So these are separate day tweets. So basically, Trump did this humanitarian action on this overly harsh sentence, and it's totally disingenuous. But shame on Obama for not doing it. Okay, whatever. Now here we go back to the day before, June 2nd, and what do we see here? On his last day in office, Obama pardoned the sentences of 330 federal inmates convicted of drug crimes, releasing them back on the streets. Inmates like Alice Johnson, a major mid-level cartel trafficker in Alabama.
Back on the streets, Alice Johnson.
Alice Johnson, back on the streets. So this again shows why you can never trust these people for anything systemic. Ever.
And also, we're going to be like,
And that they're
this
fucking
whole
amateurs,
idea that
yeah.
like hypocrisy, like pointing out hypocrisy matters anymore in
Doesn't
any way
matter.
that like
Right.
it did under, I don't know, the Daily Show heyday or something. It just
Right.
doesn't matter. These people don't care.
They do not care.
Certainly the
Stop
people following
bothering
Charlie Kirk
The buy your logic thing.
they do not give a shit.
That whole generation of like, this would have been a 10-minute segment in 2004. And the reveal would be this tweet, and then I would be like, make some Jon Stewart face. Now it's like, yeah, this is just totally obvious. It would honestly shock me if this didn't happen.
Yeah, I think the point about this inconsistency now isn't that it's discrediting, because obviously,
Right.
But I think it's hard, like, to keep them just average idiot turning points college kid. Like,
Yes.
this is confusing and disorienting to be like going through these sort of whiplash.
The lie factory for any kind of normal person
It's
is
not a
hard
good-
to keep up with.
Yeah.
It's not pointing out the hypocrisy. It's pointing out just like the complete functional incoherence of all of this as just a state of being, which is still weird for most normal people.
Collective schizophrenia, basically.
Right, exactly.
Props to Kim, though.
Yeah, props to Kim, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully there are just a few people that see this and they're like, wait, what about mandatory drug minimums that Sessions is pushing? And Trump pardons one woman who is in jail for cocaine dealing.
It's funny. There's a competitor to Turning Points that I also troll called Young Americans for Liberty, and they're the more libertarian. Like,
You can
we're
tell
still
by
the
their
anti-war
totally
thing.
lame name.
Yeah, whereas like Turning Points is like gone all aboard for Trump, which like surprises me because that seems like a bad investment to me if I was spending that money. Maybe not. I don't know.
Dude, if you imagine if you're under 40 years old and you're becoming a Republican today.
No, but I mean like Foster Freeze money.
But he wants to invest in the future of right-wing politics. The future of right-wing politics is Trump. It's pure oligarch politics, and then like any quasi not ultra-rich person that's interested in it is going to be like, I was watching videos about, I'm just tired of political correctness, and that's why I'm a pedophile. Like, that's the future of the Republican Party. That's literally what that horrifying creep who's running, I think, for state senate in Virginia actually said in an interview where he was confronted on pedophilia. His first line was literally, people are tired of political correctness, which should be like, just, somehow the notification of that story should be popping up on Sam Harris and Barry Weiss's phones every 30 seconds. Like, this is the environment of emboldened stupidity, if not outright lecherous criminality, that your fucking endless whining about college students not liking racism is helping contribute to. You morons.
They know.
I mean, just to be fair to the pedophile defender, he is running as an independent.
He's a libertarian.
So, yeah, of course, he's a libertarian. I was going to say, he's a libertarian, yeah. I don't fit into narrow ideological categories. As an example, I don't support bombing Syria, and I also think the age of consent should be lowered to 6. I'm trying to create non-ideological solutions to the burning issues of the day, which is like, why can't kiddie porn be real and Assad's misunderstood?
Funny little
Donald Trump inspired me to get involved with politics.
Behind the scenes, when I brought this story to Sam in our production meeting one morning, I was like, guess what party he is? And he's like, Republican? I was like, no. Democrat? No. Green Party? And I was like, Sam, come on. The answer is obvious.
Green Party.
Libertarian.
If we had...
Yeah, I was going to say, the first self-proclaimed, like, pedophile defender candidate, I mean, you have to put, like, 1,000,000 to 1 libertarian, right? Like, I mean, what other party? Like, that seems pretty obvious.
If we did not have such a strong two-party system, I think we would see two new parties already having arisen at this point in time, right? There would be the alt-right Trump party and the Social Democrat Bernie party, but instead they just have to take over the Democrats and the Republicans.
And one side's doing it pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is I think the Republican thing is it's Republicans. It's just optics. Like there is an actual ideological battle inside the Democratic terrain. Republicans are Republicans. And I'm sure that there's some people who think it's more like uncouth. Like, Paul Ryan, he thinks it's uncouth to say overtly racist things. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is making sure that kids starve so you can subsidize tax cuts to the Kochs.
I agree with you.
That's the core thing
but
that matters.
Try telling that to them.
To who? It doesn't matter.
The Trumpers.
I don't think it matters to them.
No,
Look, clearly it doesn't. Look at what's happened in the last year and a half policy-wise. I mean, if it mattered to them, they'd be like, where's the Bannon agenda? Matt, what?
I just want to make a belabored sports analogy. I think the alt-right is sort of... you gonna say? So, you know how in the NBA, like, players can travel, basically?
Yes.
You get an extra step.
Right. Particularly maybe an extra 2 in the playoffs.
Yeah, Trump is showing them that you can take that extra step, guys, and they're not going to call it.
They're not going to call it. They don't even call it. They don't even call it.
And
liberals,
yes,
they used to have to talk about
liberals are your dad going on watching the basketball game being like, travel every 2 minutes.
Why don't they call anything? Oh, my dad. They call, travel. He traveled. If you counted all the travels together, LeBron wouldn't even be that good.
I count 5 steps on that.
There were 5 steps. LeBron actually averaged 10 points a game if you included all the times he should have been ejected for traveling.
He clearly dragged his pivot foot.
Jamie, I'm sorry that we just went into that long sport bit.
I think I understood most of it from context clues.
That is so perfect, though. That's exactly right. Liberals are your dad. They're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to create a goddamn newsletter. It calls out the traveling problem. The whole thing will change.
This
a supercut of all the travels from this NBA Finals by your dad.
And like everybody else on the planet is just like, nobody cares. Stop.
Put the ball in the basket, you fucking idiot.
Right. Figure out a way to support your team to getting the ball in the. That's the best. I don't know if you guys ever heard this, but there was a tape that went around, I think in the 80s, and someone played it for me several years ago, and it was a Coach Ely of like the 1980s Cubs, and it's like a year where like the Cubs were, like 5-35 or something to open, like really, really bad. And he just loses his mind in this press conference, and he even down to the point where he starts like attacking the fans that come to see the game, which is probably like the cardinal no-no. Like he's just like, at one point he's like, 85% of the world's working. The other 15% come here. It's a playground for the cocksuckers. And he's like, and it's funny because he's actually really upset because he really just is like, he's like, my guys are trying their best. And, God only gave him so much. Like, he clearly just feels bad that, like, his team sucks and everybody's really mean about it. But at one point, he sort of composes himself and, like, his, social etiquette dictates, like, all right, let's just get back to the press conference after you just, like, clearly lost your job and cursed out your fan base. And so someone tries to ask like a real sports writer, like, in the third inning when you had, so-and-so bunt. And he goes, I'm not answering any questions about any specific fucking plays. And you guys always go, why did you sacrifice fly this? Why did you bunt that? I don't give a shit. He goes, what you do is you hit the ball, you catch the ball, you make fucking runs, you score. And that's the game. I'm not answering any questions about any specific fucking plays. And then there's just silence. It's great. You're calling from a 218 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Mike. This is Ian calling from Minnesota.
Hey, what's going on, Ian?
I was just wondering if you saw the news that Keith Ellison's running for Attorney General in Minnesota.
Yeah, we talked about it 2 days ago or yesterday. I also heard that Obama was like, Tom, got to get down to Minnesota. Oh, okay. All right, I'll go. Hey, people in Minnesota, Keith Ellison doesn't give a shit. I think he was mean to President Obama. Yeah.
I guess Ilhan Omar, she's the first Somali legislator. Did you see that she's going to run for a spot?
Yes, she's running for his seat. Yep, I did see that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think she'd make a good guest on the show.
Yeah, totally. She probably would. I'm down.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about her?
Yeah, that's all. I wasn't sure if you guys.
She's into Ayn Rand.
That's all I had to say.
She's part of the Somali Muslim Ayn Rand Society. And she owns a wheatgrass juice chain. I'm just kidding. None of those things are true.
She's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, no, she's a state legislator. She's well to the left. I think she's really young. She's like only in her 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's was she a community organizer?
Yeah.
Was that her background?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm interested to see if someone like Ellison, like that left winning a statewide seat.
Well, also, Attorney General is a really that's a very good office for people. Like
Especially these days.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot
Definitely,
of things that need to happen out of AG's offices, from protecting constitutional issues to, you can be very aggressive with your interpretations, and even to the extent like any positive things had happened on like any type of corporate regulatory front. Like in most of modern politics, it was by attorney generals. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think he'll be a great consumer advocate for sure.
Awesome. All right. Appreciate the call, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're calling from a 215 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Jonathan from Bethlehem, PA.
Hey, what's up, Jonathan? What's going on?
Long-time listener. Years of listening to you guys.
Nice. Thank you.
So,
is this your
two
first
issues I
time
wanted
calling?
to talk about real fast. Yeah, first time calling.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
I worked in PBS for a long time, and now I'm a trucker, so I'm a little bit kind of like out of my element, but
Wow. Okay.
glad I'm calling. So
Yeah.
One of the things that kind of struck me weird about a point that you've been making recently about Elon Musk and SpaceX.
Yeah.
It kind of threw me off. I didn't
Why?
really understand your perspective, and for the most part, a lot of your points and things you guys always talk about really, enlighten me and educate me. I'm not always fully understanding your point of view, but with this one, I'm not really.
What are you
I'm
not
sure
getting?
why.
What are you not getting?
For me, SpaceX is really inspiring. I'm really happy to see that private industry is taking over space flight.
Why?
And I'm actually hopeful in my lifetime, maybe there might be a chance if I spend a few $1,000s, I could fly into space for something even more exciting than that.
Okay.
So
Cool.
I'm not really getting why you're upset with.
Well, I'll tell you why. I hate space travel. I don't want you to go to space. I wish NASA had never been created. I don't want either private or public because, as I always say, and one of the guiding north stars of my politics is F space. No exploration, no adventure. Don't see the cosmos. I also would like to. I would also like Gene Roddenberry's name to be officially dishonored and discredited, and all copies of Star Trek to be deleted digitally, so people cannot stream these shows. No, I mean, I guess my even like what you're just saying. It has that really does. Actually, to be honest with you, I'm sure that if I dug into it, I would have concerns and critiques of private space travel. So it would probably be dishonest to me to suggest that I might not have concerns about that. But my problem with Elon Musk has nothing to do with the possibility that he could help people cheaply have a space experience. I mean, honestly, if you actually had a serious price point and a safe way of going to I would probably do something like that. That actually sounds pretty cool. Okay. But my criticism is what I just keep saying. One, any type of societal worship of billionaires is dangerous and a problem in and of itself, period. No matter whether they're good, bad, whatever. That type of hero worship of that person and how the structural role they represent in our society is a problem in and of itself. Number two, all of the I mean, look, here's the reality of what this guy actually is. He made a killing on an online card payment system, which he happened to do in conjunction with one of the most dangerous and destructive people in the tech sector. In the modern era, he is fully subsidized by the state with regards to things like Tesla. He takes a massive amount and is incredibly shrewd, by the way.
Yeah, people don't realize that.
Yeah, he's actually, his real genius is in knowing exactly how to game the government contracting system, which I don't really have a problem with, but I would say, like, that's not what people have in their heads when they use the word genius, okay? And what has he actually produced? Well, let's. I'll quote now a little bit from Sarah Jones, and then I'll continue. She writes, "Happy Labor Day to everyone but Elon Musk. The National Labor Relations Board has issued formal charges to Musk Tesla Corporation for waging a union-busting campaign in its factories. Workers have been trying to unionize the United Automobile Workers of America, as Noah Kulin reported for Vice on Thursday.
Fake news.
The National Labor Relations Board issued an official complaint to Tesla on Thursday, citing claims by workers that Tesla prevented them from leafleting or disclosing union activity and worker safety at Tesla's Fremont, California factory premises. The charges additionally alleges that Tesla HR staffers are, quote-unquote, interrogated employees about, quote-unquote, protected union activity. And Tesla workers have complained about long hours, dangerous conditions, and low pay, and so on and so forth. So you add that to the mix with the fact that all of this stuff, as I say, is totally speculative. Like, we are not anywhere remotely close to a $2,000 flight to space. And also, yes, I would suggest that the idea of privatizing space travel has some incredibly dangerous implications for the global commons, which you really should look into. There's bigger things at stake here than somebody's ability to have cheap space travel. And then the other thing is that he's going to save us from climate change is just pure techno-utopian fantasy. Like, pure. And Tesla might be a small part of potentially a more green car fleet. Although, by the way, there's still a lot of questions about, first of all, the assembly of cars and their environmental impact. And electric, certainly carries its own environmental problems. What we're going to really need to do is have, obviously, significantly more mass transit and really redesign cities and really allow for other ways of commuting that aren't just car-based. Like, that is a non-negotiable part of it. And Elon Musk himself, in a more candid moment a couple years ago, said that the Hyperloop, which is another idea that, again, like, I guess sounds cool, but first of all is nowhere near to deployment, doesn't, and by the way, a Hyperloop that you go in that can take you from New York to LA in 20 minutes with a guy with his safety record would terrify the fuck out of me.
No, we called it a few years ago at Death and Taxes. Everyone who sets foot in that Hyperloop thing is going to fucking die.
Well, particularly probably like the workers who helped build the thing. It's going to be like El Chapo's, tunnel routes from Mexico into the U.S. where some of the people were fucking killed after they built the things, right? Like, I mean, I look at all of this.
It's going to be like the last episode of The Leftovers.
I look at all of this, and then this guy gets on Twitter a couple days ago to basically, because there was a podcast for a nonprofit journalistic enterprise that reported on some of these totally valid issues on like labor violations. And then all of a sudden he has this idea to basically, first of all, Peter Dow's idea, which is already out there and has already failed, to assign numeric ratings to journalists. And God, I wonder what kind of quote-unquote objective structures he would be incentivizing.
The idea that the tech press is too hostile to the people they cover is fucking insane.
We just had Corey Pein on.
Yes, if you read the tech press and you think that it's too hostile, then like, I don't know, you think that like there aren't enough like, I don't know, performance-enhancing drugs in football or something, or like they're too fucking restrictive of playing with concussions or something. It's just delusional and insane. So for all of those reasons, for the fact that like even in the most benign parts of what he's doing haven't really achieved anything yet, and he's an unaccountable billionaire and no one should have that amount of capital, and he's making these terrifying, anybody who took the press seriously should be terrified by his interest in the press. And the fact that he abuses workers, and the fact that Tesla isn't contributing anything, and the fact that this other stuff is just fantasies at this point, frankly, that might create as many problems as they potentially solve. Get off of Elon Musk. Well, I won't finish that thought.
Also, imagine just
Well, yeah, I'm not a fan of Elon Musk. I'm a fan of SpaceX. But all your points are very, very well taken. Can I make another? Can I ask another question?
Yes.
Okay. So I want your thoughts on it. I've been hearing a little bit, and I kind of like just put something out on Facebook. I'm not like a media promoter or anything like that, but I would just want to see if anyone else had reactions. When Trump was talking to, I forget the shorter guy at Fox News, not Shepard, but they were talking about immigrants coming in.
Yeah.
And he mentioned something about the courts and how he wants to do away with that problem. And I'm like, red flag. This has got to be one of the biggest signs of how he wants to be a tyrannical leader. He wants to get courts out of the process for these immigrants. And I really finally heard something really good from Chris Hayes on his podcast about what's going on and how they're trying to take the courts out of the system. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on what is Trump's plan, or his administration's plan on the federal court system, because I don't hear much.
Well, I think their
it,
plan is to just continue to totally stuff it with far right judges. I mean, I think I hear what you're saying, that what he's implying and saying there sounds more sinister, but I think functionally, if you just stack it with Gorsuch's, you'll get the decisions you want, mostly by and large, including on things like this, inhumane, horrific treatment of immigrant populations. Yeah. So I think that's what he's going to keep doing, stuffing the courts, which is what every single person said who was following the election, and wasn't like, well, why don't the Democrats do that? Because if the Democrats did that, then blah, 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 then there would be a revolution, and Jill Stein would be elected president, because I'm a fucking idiot.
Well, I think there's more to it than just the Supreme Court. I think
I said the courts. Yeah, the courts, the federal judiciary. They're doing it. Yeah. They're doing it across the board.
It's a big part of our government that's really not talked about too much. But yeah.
No, I appreciate the call.
See what comes out more.
I think you're totally right.
All right,
Thanks, man.
Just one more thing on Musk, and the point I keep making is, like, let's say we categorize him as a, quote, good billionaire.
Right.
There are about 1,700 of billionaires on the planet. Like, he's maybe one that you could name, right? Like, it's like the philanthropy problem. Like, it looks like the problem's being addressed by this, like extravagant millionaire, but really it's just like that's all it is.
It's a category that shouldn't exist. You can't have a society that functions with that category. And all of the problems that we're trying to address are generated by having that category. And the other thing too is, like, it's funny, like, honestly, if you want to play that game, and all jokes aside, George Soros has never done anything for any of us. George Soros is probably one of the only people in that bracket who's actually said, like, I want to support policies at times that are, like, genuinely quasi-redistributive, not in any type of, like, actual threatening way, but he's willing to, like, support the most liberal candidate who actually theoretically would raise his taxes and, like, support an actual social safety net. And he still, like, you can't have a billionaire. You can't. It just doesn't work. It's just antithetical to democracy and problem solving. And I like Douglas Lane told me that his vision would be to have, Elon Musk on his show and be like, how do you harmonize wanting to innovate and disrupt every single thing to the point of even, like, redefining what a human being is potentially with nano and with artificial, with AI and all of this, and yet you're addicted to, like, the age-old and operating system of capitalism. Like, why is that static and everything else is fluid? I think that's a very, very good question.
Also, it's not like he's designing all of those things himself.
No.
Like, these are people whose labor he's exploiting.
He's a marketer. He's a great marketer. I mean, that's what's funny. Is
the idea that he's in charge of, like, reusable or, like, responsible for reusable rockets. Like, fuck that.
That's ridiculous nonsense. I don't get people's emotional issues. You're calling from a 512 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Michael Brooks. It's Tammy in Texas.
Tammy, how are you? What's on your mind?
You in a big rush today?
Rush-ish, but I know I like the way that was very boss yesterday with Sam. That was amazing. He's just like,
No,
he's like,
I just-
we have to be fast.
No, I
and
didn't-
Tammy was like, oh, well, fuck
I didn't
you.
realize.
I'm just kidding.
I didn't realize until he said that y'all were winding up, or I wouldn't have held for him to answer.
No, okay.
Anyway,
well, go ahead.
I want to tell y'all about something kind of interesting that happened here in Austin.
Yes.
You know how you can understand something logically but totally not get it emotionally?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
Well, okay. Well, we all know that like politics is sleazy and pay to play and all that stuff.
Right.
I am in the 10th congressional district. My congressman is he married into the Clear Channel fortune, hasn't held a town hall in 9 years. I go to his office with Indivisible and other groups that y'all make fun of all the time.
Do we really
you know,
make
because
fun of
that's the only way
Indivisible
that
all the time? Do we? I don't know that. But anyways, it doesn't matter.
Indivisible, it's the largest resistance group. Indivisible is the largest.
Yeah, no, I know that, but I don't really.
We're not making fun of those. When
Yeah,
we
we're not
make
making fun of
the
people
resistance.
actually. I want to be really clear. I am never making fun of somebody who's actually out doing something in some type of actual concrete. When I sort of make fun of the resistance, it's basically a certain type of social media take
Online
machine,
stuff,
which I think is stupid. But
Oh.
yeah, not the,
The people who think that tweets are as important as votes.
Yes, I think that, or also the people that just have, bad takes. I mean, but I'll tell you what, I'm a lot more forgiving of people's bad takes if they're out actually doing something. So I think Indivisible's leveraging that. And so I'm very sympathetic to that, even if I probably have a different ideology than a lot of people involved with it. But it's awesome that they're out doing it. That's my thoughts on it.
That's why you tolerate my presence on the show, right?
That's why I tolerate Jamie's presence on the show. Exactly. Because
Well,
we go
the Indivisible
and burn
group
tires
here-
together after the show, so it's fine.
Well, the indivisible groups here in Austin go all the way from the Red Rose DSA groups all the way to repentant Republicans who are just disgusted.
Right.
So
Right, and I think that's totally
ideologically
it's great.
monolithic.
And that's great. I'm
But
totally.
what
I
I
think
want
that's great.
But let me tell.
Yes,
this
go
is
ahead.
hilarious. Let me get to the story.
Yes.
Okay. So the only way for me to ever meet look, I've met Ted Cruz. You know that.
Yes, I do.
Check that box.
Yes.
Yeah. So next, I wanted to meet my congressman. Okay. Ted Cruz has only been a senator for about 5 minutes, but this guy's been in Congress since before I moved back to Texas, and I've been back for 10 years, right?
Right.
He hasn't held a town hall in 9 years. You want to meet him, $2,700 a plate. That's what it costs, right? Okay. So I'm not going to wait for you to say yes. So,
Yeah, no, I did.
It turned
I did.
out-
Yeah.
It turned out that there was a Deplorapalooza here in Austin on the weekend of the Gun Violence Awareness Weekend, June 1st, 2nd, 3rd, called Maverick Conference,
Nice.
right?
Right.
And it only cost $100 if you were a member of Maverick PAC to attend, but they had a special for non-Maverick members who are Texas residents. You could attend for the low, low price of $200. Right.
So you got into the Maverick
2,700
meeting. Okay, so you got in, I'm assuming. And did you
no,
meet the guy?
No.
Okay. Okay.
I bought a ticket, and I was very excited about going on Friday, June 1st.
Mhm.
At 1 o'clock in the morning on Friday, June 1st, I got an email that says, "You will not be allowed entry into our event for the weekend. I hope you will respect that, but in the event that you do not, we have alerted our security team, our staff, and the Austin Police Department. Further, we will have your picture printed out at every entry point to make sure you do not enter the event. It is a private event, and we are within our rights to bar your attendance. You will not be allowed into our event under any circumstances."
Wow. What a bunch of open ideas, pussies. That's incredible. So they knew who you were from the Ted Cruz thing, and somebody actually
don't know
went to
what
that
they
degree.
know.
That's
They didn't-
unbelievable.
They swore. I don't know why they swore out a bolo for me with the cops.
That's insane.
They don't say why.
Right.
They don't. But I wanted to let you
Did
know
they
there's a
refund you?
video with an answer. No,
No, with your money.
never. Oh, well, not until I made a really big stink on Facebook, and my MavCon 18 Facebook had more. It doesn't matter, but
Yeah.
yes, eventually.
Okay.
Like I showed up on Friday and said, I am not here. I always dress nice. I'm presentable. I'm respectable. I ask my questions in a calm voice. I'm not like a Code Pink screamer, right? I ask my question in a calm voice. I let the person say their answer. I don't interrupt. They had no reason to bar me, but what I wanted to tell you is I did go I marched with the End Family Separation, Our Revolution March. I marched
Great.
from Republic Square in Austin to Brazos Hall, and then I went to the door to be let in, dressed for the event with my ticket on my cell phone in my hand, right?
Right.
My receipt.
Right.
And I said, I'd like to be let in, and the guy went, absolutely not. I'd like a refund. We're not set up to do that, right? And then, so I just wanted to let you know there's a video out there of that if
Appreciate
you ever
it.
want to watch it.
Tammy revealing them. Thank you. Appreciate the call. All right, last call of the day, guys. Then we'll do some IMs and we're out of here. You're calling from a 215 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hello, this is Ryan from outside of Philadelphia.
What's up, Ryan?
I
What's
would
going on?
first like to shout out to Brendan. I also went to Colgate a couple years behind you.
Oh. Did you graduate?
Jesus, Brendan. The guy's saying,
I am
what's
somewhat
up?
in limbo as of now.
Whoa.
Tough school. You'll make it through, man.
Brendan does have like PSI.
Yeah, I've got 2 classes trying to figure out a way to do it. Trying to get in the system.
Don't waterboat it, dude.
But,
Finish your degree.
yeah.
Or whatever. I don't know. If there's a way to
Um,
make more money without your degree, I'd say do that. Doesn't matter. Do whatever's expedient.
Yeah.
So what's on your mind, my
So
friend?
I've found some leftist friends and whatnot, and the other day we were hanging out after work, and this guy's neighbor comes out, and it just amazes me how so many people just want to argue for like status quo and don't have anything beyond that. So the story is talking to a guy going for his doctorate in educational administration,
Right.
who also went through police academy.
Nice.
And has not moved on from like just wanting to be a cop.
Oh,
and what's amazing, he's telling us the story about how he had this just major hard on to like tackle a woman who was, being disrespectful and whatnot in a school.
Right.
And all he could get
Because
this
she
guy to
didn't
argue
respect his
for was-
authority.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
All we could get him
Yep.
to say was that, I was completely within my rights. If she had one more step forward, I could have put her down. And it's just, I don't understand why.
You're not supposed
so
to
many
want
people-
to do that.
Yeah, this reminds me
Yeah.
of there's
Oh, no.
You're right.
This is what they want, of course, though.
Yeah, it's right. Exactly.
There's that standoff going off, I think, in New Mexico, or is it Arizona or Texas, where like some a veterans group says they found some like sex trafficking layer on the side of the interstate, and like even ISIS looked into it and been like, this is a homeless encampment. But
Right.
these guys are like, no, it's sex traffickers, and they're like live streaming stuff. And these people do not give a fuck about children being sex trafficked. What they see in that is an ability or like license to use violence against somebody.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, they're just trying to like figure out the logic behind it. And so it was amazing because we're like, so what's, you've obviously been in school for a long time, that gives you some sense of credibility. And, I have a very high IQ, so you should listen to me.
He said that.
There's the old joke of like,
If somebody
dumb
says
people
that, you're
talk
within
about-
your rights to break their jaw. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Well, there's like the old joke of like dumb people talk about things and like smart people talk about ideas or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like this guy was making the point that, that being more successful for the kids in this elementary school outside of Philadelphia was basically like, having more connection to teachers and whatnot and adults in the school. And it's just funny because like while I don't like in any way, I wouldn't disagree with that assessment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my academic career certainly is indicative of that, like how well I've connected with teachers and stuff.
Right.
But, like why don't we, it's just like amazing to me how much it misses the point of like
actual
the difference
education.
between-
Right.
Yeah. And like how, redistribution of, property taxes and whatnot for school funding.
Right.
And the effect of economics on, you know.
Well, people like that
kids
never
that-
understand or want to talk about economics ever, or anything foundational.
Yeah,
that's their
the biggest
jam.
thing.
That's their right, exactly. Their biggest thing is to not get the biggest.
Why would
thing.
they investigate something that might make them uncomfortable?
Yeah, exactly. This guy can't even deal with, like, presumably someone much smaller than him, like, not deferring to him at a school hallway. Why would he read
And like
something
most
that was
times
discomforting?
referring to like, oh yeah, like in my police training, it was like, no, but you're not a cop. Like you may have like, I don't care if you went up to the last day and like didn't turn in your last paper, didn't graduate, but like this is one of those situations where like you didn't get it. Like you're not there, you're not a cop, so it doesn't matter what your training was.
I like the way he's saying. You almost sounds like the scene in Good Will Hunting. You're not a cop. It's okay. You're not a cop. All right, man. Thanks for the call.
But this guy wished he was.
No, I got that. I definitely got that. Thank you. Yeah, that's.
There was like I can't remember the story, but there's a woman who was pretending, like answering 911 calls and showing up on the scene as a cop, and it turned out she wasn't a real cop, and she just liked to play a cop. Like, earnestly.
There was a guy in Chicago like a decade ago now who did this as well, and he would show up in full uniform to the scene and like pretend to be a cop, and they eventually caught him, and he kept doing it after getting caught as well.
Well,
It's a
show's
great
over,
urban
folks.
life.
Show's over. The cops look at him. They're just like, the way that guy tackled that black kid. He could have been on the force. Okay.
Do something like that. You know what I mean? Just, I'm beside myself with what was going through their head.
A scary day last September for Katie Snyder. She and a friend were taking pictures at Stepping Stone Falls in Flint when they were approached by a group of people identifying themselves as police officers. One of them was Emily Burrison, who's now in custody.
She totally
I
looks
look over
like
and
a
I see
pretend
somebody,
cop.
they're photographing my car. There are 6 people surrounding my car. So of course I approach them and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And they said, oh, we're police.
Julie says they had a car with red and blue flashing lights, and Burrison dressed in a police officer's uniform.
The woman that detained me had a Kevlar vest on. She had a gun belt and everything. She asked for my identification. She then handcuffed myself and my girlfriend. And what is this about? And she said, well, you're trespassing on Genesee County state land.
Jesus Christ. All right.
This also goes to show that cops should be easily identifiable as cops. And the shit where you see them, like I see them around Brooklyn, all of a sudden the guy's walking around with like a handgun, and it's like, oh, he's an undercover cop or something.
Right.
It's like that's bullshit.
That's a problem.
Fuck that,
yeah, I agree. Colin from. I can't make that out, man. I'm sorry. Testing. Michael, I became a patron of TMBS last night. Oh, thank you. The Marxism 101 with Douglas Lane was very refreshing. I also sent that video in song yesterday via MR email I mentioned yesterday. Cheers. Could you tell me what the subject, or I'll look for it, but I need to know what the subject line is, please. Ryan from LA. Hey, Alexa, where can I get a used guillotine? And what's... oh, shit. I'm supposed to talk about this. There is an election happening in Ontario today. There's an opportunity for the New Democratic Party, which is the Social Democratic Party, which has been moving back to the left to actually win and take the Liberals, Justin Trudeau's party, out of power, the pseudo-woke center, and Doug Ford's brother's running on the right. So there's a lot going on. Vote NDP. If you're in Ontario, that would be my advice. It's actually like legit a 3-way race, so they can win. So vote for them. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry. Farmer Jillian. So was today's Silicon Valley conversation more about workers' rights or just general discussion on its horrors? If the latter, then you guys didn't have a chance to talk about the gender imbalance caused by these brainiacs, sexism, and misogyny. Maybe next time. Yeah. I mean, I think actually, I mean, it's covered in his book, but it is fundamentally from a workers and labor angle. Marxist Marietta, hate Musk and Bezos all you want, but we need to be able to get to space if we ever want fully automated luxury gay space communism.
That doesn't follow.
That doesn't follow.
Musk is not how we get that.
Yeah, that's you're a little bit off track there.
That's the problem with having one of these guys acting like he can save us. Like, it's not that he's doing something wrong. It's that, of course, he can't. We need to have, like, if we're going to solve climate change, like batteries, We need the state to do that.
These problems are political, like Corey Pein said.
Apparently Grimes, who I don't know who that is, went on Twitter and said that there's no labor problems at Elon Musk's.
Yeah, she did.
That was a while ago. Grimes is a
I love Grimes.
artist.
Bless her liberal heart, man. She's such a dumbass.
She's white girl Kanye.
She's white girl.
Yeah, that's accurate. I'm not even going to try to argue with that.
I don't even know what that is, but I like it.
love her music. I've danced to her music many a time at 6 a.m. in a state of ecstasy, but I've always said that she's a dumbass. Like, her Tumblr feminism is incredibly shallow, and this just proves it. She's like, I did research. Trust me, I can show the receipts. He's not discouraging his workers from unionizing.
And all she did was go to visit a factory.
Yeah,
right.
And he was probably like,
well, that's
hey guys,
how you determine it.
Hey guys, my girlfriend's coming. Quick, everybody.
You got the guy's girlfriend to go to the factory.
Everyone look happy.
She asked a few people how they like the Isley soft serve machines, and then they're great. And then she gets on Tumblr.
Everyone look happy or you're fired. I did a good tweet, actually, that I'm kind of proud of. It's everyone's a bleeding heart liberal until she meets an evil billionaire who can take her to space.
I buy it.
We all are.
No.
I'm joking.
Yeah. You sell me at least too short. I don't know about you, Brendan. Baked Nebraska. Music question for Michael and all. MIA, yay or nay?
Big yay.
Big yay from Brendan. Matt.
Medium yay.
Jamie.
Big yay.
Yay. Yay-ish.
I love her. I think her politics are a little fake sometimes, but she's a pop star. All right, people? You know, neoliberal feminists have Taylor Swift and Beyonce, and we've got MIA.
Okay. Yeah, dude, I'm not going to look into nuclear power because nobody died from radiation at Fukushima, and I have a misinformed opinion on it. I'm just going to tell you I'm not going to do that.
Nuclear advocates really underestimate how hard it is to get rid of nuclear waste.
Yeah, yes. And I want to be...
It's a long time, guys.
And I'm going to start being more transparent about things that I will not be looking into further. And again, it's like one of these things, like there is no techno fix to the environmental crisis. Not to say that technology isn't part of it, but this idea, especially one as potentially just literally globally life-ending as that technology, to be so obsessed and harp on it.
It's naive engineer. It's naive engineer.
It's naive engineer
let's have
stuff.
Scott Pruitt in charge of Yucca Mountain.
Precisely. I mean, it's just in fact, it's already something that sort of, our fate is jeopardized by this already every day, let alone without actually accelerating it. So yeah, I won't be, unless, like, God forbid I need to do another push, like there's some push where we actually need to fight it. Dark Matter, I've always enjoyed Corey Pein's appearances on the show and TMBS. He's the best I've seen at describing life and culture in the Valley and synthesizing it into a critique on our economic systems. I'm getting his book. Yes, indeed. Michael, Thames Darn, Michael, two things. First, big up to the caller. Missed the name during this doing the work with the refugees. Yes. He's doing God's work, to be sure. Second, since you seem to be intent on not reading my Discord messages on TMBS, please credit Dissident Peasant and read the following as Michael Flynn Jr. Dad, we have an IQ effect named after us. Dad! Dude, that's really good. I don't know how blame my producers for not filtering that one to me. Ben from Seattle, any thoughts on Howard Schultz's from Starbucks political ambitions?
You can get bent.
And I don't like any type of like fart or bathroom humor.
That campaign
but that's
is
like
dead on
literally
arrival.
all I have. Yeah, I mean, look, if it is a teaching moment in the delusional aspirations of like the leisure class woke corporate, I mean, it's ridiculous. There's zero appetite for it, and it's already embarrassing how much attention. Like in 2020. If you're running against Trump on cutting Social Security, Medicare, and like being inclusive. I mean, this is like a Bellevue candidacy. I don't even have anything else to say about it. Mysterious anarcho-punk. Watching Michael get annoyed by things is my favorite part of the show.
He's just trying to keep up Sam's vibe, you know?
Oh, there's no comparison. Who's calling? I actually got a text. Apparently Sam's watching. He's like, how did you get the number? How?
That guy is lucky that Sam's not here today.
He got the number. It's a new Patreon service that Jamie's providing. She's just giving out the Skype name. It's just like
become a back channel member.
Just become a back channel member.
No comment.
That's actually not a bad idea. Oh right, no comment.
I actually have a special part of Literary Hangover Patreon where I just have a mic running in the studio at all times.
Oh boy.
Oh wow. Well, let me just say I've been hacked.
I know that that's not true because we would have heard about it.
There would have been a lot of really funny comedy routines. Okay, Sam's Tinder profile. Hey girl, swipe right. I just shaved my Harry's razor and I got a discount from the Majority Report. And now now I can tell you with a clean-shaven face that the Republicans are the party of white identity politics. Don't you see?
These are all so on the nose.
That's kind of the charm of them.
Yeah,
I think that's sort of the charm of them. Okay, all right. Only one or two more.
He does do that.
Sorry, I'm missing it. And it's a zero-sum game. Because that's definitely the electoral formula that we should have. Digby, we've been talking for a long time. I like Alex Jones. Like, Digby, we've been talking about the white identity politics for a long time. Let's see. Okay, Tomcat. Hi, Michael. I understand that Corey has been through a lot with Silicon Valley, but throughout his interview, he sounded like he was going to cry. No, he didn't. Seriously, though, MR should invite Musk fans and other technocentrists to call and explain why they feel the need to defend big tech CEOs, even though their so-called heroes don't really care about them, only their wallets and tax money. I think there's a psychological puzzle there we need to get to the bottom of. Who knows? It may be another zero-sum game. Cheers. Left is best. That actually is a zero-sum game. I actually think there is more zero. No, I'm not particularly. I have a trouble making symbolic things zero-sum games, not material things. But whatever. We don't have to get into that. Really cool. Amadou Diallo was a guy who was shot 41 times for searching for his wallet in the car in the vestibule of the building he worked in. Yep. He lived. Abner Louima was a guy who cops raped with a plunger. Also, you show some of Trump's penthouse Playboy covers while Trump talks about a porn actress. Context. Okay. All right. Let's find the final IM of the day. It's got to be good. And this is good. And this is true. And this is something that should immediately happen. Censor sweep. Matt, please clip Pruitt saying, "LF." We're back tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bar. But finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. I get somewhere the choice was made, for the option where you don't get paid, for the rope that bends before it finally breaks you. I guess somehow I lost my drive between the 101 and the 5. Do you know how far the detour takes